Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Happy Monday to everybody out there. Yo, man, let's get it going on this Monday. First things first, man. I want to say happy anniversary to one of my favorite albums, Point Blank. Period. We got Moment of Truth, man. Gangstar, Moment of Truth, 1998. 1998 was filled with so many classic pieces. When we talk about DMX's debut album, everybody getting in the chat or whatnot. I think people might have that. Yeah, what's up? We got Poets and Rhymes in here. Hold on. I'm going to wait till a couple of people get in here real quick. Yes, DJ Bruce Almighty. Everybody in here. Yes, yes, yes. First things first. Happy Monday to everybody. Gangstar's Moment of Truth celebrates its anniversary today. 1998 was a very, very action-packed year. I debate with Leroy all the time about which year was probably the most action-packed in hip-hop. Leroy says 98. I personally believe 95 because 95 is just so dense with material, and I give 95 the edge over 96 because, Pac and Big were here for the duration of both years. But 98 is up there too. And there was a lot of great material that was coming out from all over the place in 98 as well. And Gangstar's Moment of Truth is one of those moments. I think that Gangstar being the type of group that they are, especially during that time when everything got super commercialized in hip hop, and I wouldn't say super, that's more so 2000s talk, but hip hop was getting more and more commercialized. And, the people who were making the foundational, I don't want to say boom bap, but more so, foundational underground-esque, but still mainstream hip hop stuff weren't getting the level of notoriety that a DMX or a Jay-Z or even an Outkast was getting. And I think Moment of Truth really falls into that as well, especially with that being a veteran album for Gangstar at the time. They weren't fresh and new. It almost felt like a comeback. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. But when you think about albums, and we're going to talk about some comebacks today on the show when we get Savannah here, we're going to talk about some of the best hip hop comebacks ever. And I wouldn't really call Moment of Truth a comeback per se, but it was one of those reintroductory albums where, Guru said it perfectly on the intro. Like, they have certain formulas and they update their formulas. And by 1998, anybody who was around in the 80s, early 90s, even mid 90s, even, there was a formula that needed to be updated, or you had to update your sound and your music. And what DJ Premier and Guru did on Moment of Truth, it was phenomenal, man. Like, Guru, I feel like, took his pen to a whole nother level as well. And to me, I think the Moment of Truth is one of the best produced hip hop albums ever. I do think it is Primo's best produced album, in my estimation. You guys correct me if I'm wrong out there. And when we were breaking the news or talking about the news of Nas and Premier doing a whole project together, I think that album right there should be that point of reference. It sounds like a nice, crisp fall day in New York City. Now, if you ever been to New York in the fall, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're missing out, man. And that album, it's just a beautiful listen. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the content of it, the sound is lush. It doesn't have a date on it. Again, you could play that album. You wouldn't even know if it was 1998, 2008, 2018. But it gives you that rich, nostalgic feel when I'm talking about, just full instruments. And my personal favorite, I don't know, I could be a bit biased because I was there and I remember how royalty made me feel when I would see that video on the box. And I mean, it was just a beautiful record, those strings. And it was Premier at his height. It was Premier, like, doing what Premier does. I remember back in the day, man, this is how far me and Ron go back. Like, I've known Ron since he was at ninth grade. I was in 10th. And we had like a little crew that we were running with. And Ron had all of the Source magazines. And we would go through these reviews. And, it was like the Source was telling us what was dope and what wasn't. And we had our own ears and everything as well. But we were formulating what our taste was. I mean, there were some things that I listened to, 3 6 Mafia and all that stuff, that the Source really didn't hold high. But when it came down to DJ Premier, produced tracks, we had in our mind what that quality sounded like. And this is before Moment of Truth. And when Moment of Truth hit, everything that we heard and everything that we materialized as that premiere sound, he just totally impacted that and showed that on all levels on Moment of Truth. And it's a beautiful listen. I think that anybody from any generation can listen to Moment of Truth and really get into it. Now, it's a very lengthy project, but for a lengthy project, the quality is there. And in my personal opinion, I think it's one of the best hip hop albums ever made. It's hard to put a number on it. I'm going to redo a list. I know when me and Leroy were doing our GOAT Talk with Lupe Fiasco thing, I said I'm going to redo my top 20 list. I think I should. You guys got to hold me to it. I think next week, I could work on that this week. I could work on a top 20 list this week. It's just very difficult, when we're talking about top 20 MCs, the top 20 albums. You don't want to get redundant and you don't want to exclude what certain eras are doing either. And you don't want to get caught up in your own era. And for the people who missed our GOAT Talk, me and Leroy, Leroy was making the case for Lupe Fiasco being the greatest MC of all time. Now, I think that Nas is the greatest MC of all time. I don't think that Lupe is number one. But what I did get from that conversation is just based on the time and the era and every box that Lupe has checked off in his era and beyond, and outlasted from a quality standpoint many of the people from his era. I think that Lupe Fiasco should be considered a top 20 MC all time. Straight up. I mean, I have to put together the list and I have to the criteria and all of those things are what is the most important when we're talking about these things, because you want to be you want to be subjective. You know what I'm saying? You want to be objective and not subjective when it comes to lists like this. And the only way to be objective is to actually have those criteria in place and those things that people are being judged by. Now, this is the issue when it comes to greatest hip hop, artists or MCs all time. What might have been something that was a strong piece of criteria in the 90s really doesn't apply today. And I think that those big records and, quote unquote hit records or longevity of those records and the way that songs stand the test of time and all that, that's hard to really apply to, the way that music is distributed in this era. So that's always been my biggest roadblock when it comes to putting together these lists. I want to be fair to every era because, we're going to talk a little J. Cole today because Dreamville Fest is coming up and I'm hearing it's going to be the final one. But even when we look at people like J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick, the quote unquote big three, we can throw Crit in there, Khalifa, all these guys, ASAP, these guys have been around like 15 plus years. And if we're talking longevity, they have that argument for those things. Now, I don't think it's fair to sit there and say that every MC that, dropped in 94 and it might drop a project in 2025, you're counting that 31 plus years longevity. I think we kind of got to look at, and I hate to use the word relevant, so I won't use it. We have to look at that level of consistency throughout, that whole time period and that whole duration. And that's what makes these conversations even more difficult. But what's not difficult for me is what Nas has been able to do since 1994 and who he is as an MC and what he just did, since 2020. That shit, we can go back to even what he did in 2018 with Nasir, but it's number one stuff. It's stuff that's never been done, and I think that when you line this guy up, Nas, you line him up with any MC who's ever done it. I mean, he's a top-notch MC. It's not many people to ever do this that can out-rap Nas. Now, on the flip side with Lupe, I think that Lupe is in that rare conversation where it's hard for me to say that he couldn't out rap anybody at any given moment. And he's touched on all kind of themes. The content's there, the context is there, his versatility's there. The only thing that one could say about Lupe is, he didn't hit radio like some of the some of the other people who would be considered top 20. But in his era, radio didn't matter as much. So that's an interesting conversation. I'm going to come with that list. But to get back to Moment of Truth and the album conversation, I have a similar dichotomy when it comes to ranking hip hop albums, because music doesn't last as long as it used to. And that's not to say that the music that's coming out now isn't as good as the music that used to come out, because that's not the truth. Well, that it depends on who you ask. There's a lot of music out there. I'll say it this way. I'm not saying that to say that. What I'm saying is, the way the music is distributed now, you have to follow up material a lot quicker than you once did. You don't really have a climate now where artists are able to run with one album for a good year or two, at a time, and run with 4 or 5 singles from one project. When you're dropping a dope project now, people are waiting for the next project. You're expected to drop like 1 or 2 projects per year. So, even when, in my estimation, one of the best hip hop albums to come out over the past 5 years is Pray for Paris. And even when West Side Gun dropped Pray for Paris, he didn't live off of that for a minute. He dropped another project a couple of months later and ended up dropping 3 projects in that same year. Now, in my personal opinion, Pray for Paris is great enough where it should have been able to stand on its own in that year. And I feel like it would have been looked upon higher if that were the case. But when you don't do that, the music just doesn't last as long as, some other eras where they were able to ride off of these projects for a year or two. So saying all that to say, when you're putting together these lists and you're counting the impact and the longevity of these albums, the current era kind of hurts, because it's hard for those albums to get a chance to breathe in the way that other albums got a chance to breathe in previous eras that, weren't in the digital format. But that is, even with those roadblocks, I'm still going to put together this list. I hope my list doesn't look too 90s heavy, but hey, I grew up in hip hop in the 90s. So, it's probably going to be a lot of 90s representation on there. But you guys let me know what hip hop albums I need to include in the top 25. I think I'll do 25 because we're in 2025. I think every list that we're doing this year should be 25. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Yeah, every list that we're doing this year, I'm going to say it like that, should be 25. Mad Max with the super chat coming. I know Mad Max is in the building. Mad Max, I had a question for Mad Max because Kendrick is still running. Where do you have Kendrick all time, Mad Max? I want to talk to you real quick because I know that you are not the biggest Kendrick fan, and Kendrick is on an incredible run. I was just reading a story about Madonna saying that her favorite song right now is anything that's on Kendrick Lamar's new album, which is a very vague statement. But I want to know from somebody like a Mad Max, if you want to be objective, no, I want you to be objective. Be objective real quick and tell me, where do you place Kendrick Lamar all time? Did I hear Saran's in the room? No, he hit me and said that he's here.
Yes, sir.
Yo, what's good, brother? How you doing?
What's good, man?
Oh, man, I'm all right, man. Just, rocking and rolling on this Monday, man. Listening to some Starr. Listening to the Moment of Truth all day, man. Beautiful album. Beautiful album. Looking forward to some new music and stuff, too. I know we were talking earlier. Did you listen to the Will Smith album?
Nah, man. It's unfortunate I haven't got to listen to any new music. I was actually out and about this weekend, man. And so unless I was listening to stuff like on playlists or whatever when I'm driving around, I didn't really get to sit and be with the music. Like when prior releases happened, I could sit down and listen to it. I wasn't able to.
I want to give you your flowers real quick. You did an incredible interview with Travis Williams for HBCU All Stars. They got the HBCU All Star game coming up, and your interview was incredible. We just ran it on the Facebook page and Twitter, and we ran it on YouTube. What was that, a couple of days ago? That was Friday evening, so you guys could check that out as well. I mean, you got
Sure.
something to leave the people from what your meeting was like with Travis.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, man. It's going down. San Antonio, the HBCU basketball All-Star game. This will be the first time that they host a women's side of it. It's predominantly always been the men's All-Star game, but now they have incorporated the women's All-Star game within it. So it will be a doubleheader. It's going down in San Antonio, Texas. Tickets are on sale as well currently for that. And he dropped the website on our interview. I know I put it on my socials as well. If we could put it in the chat or whatever, if
Yeah,
anybody's
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
I
I'll
know
put
it's
that
going
in
to
the
be.
chat
I
before
know
the
it's going
end
to
of the.
be broadcasted on the CW network.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a pretty big deal. It's the fourth year it's happened, and this is really for like HBCU basketball players that don't get the same, representation or the same opportunities as other players that are in D1 schools that are predominantly PWIs. Throughout the NBA and the WNBA, we don't have a HBCU player on any rosters between WNBA and the NBA. It's just it's not there. So it's important to get these HBCU players the same light and the same opportunities because they're still D1. I graduated from FAMU. I don't know if their record was too good this year or whatever. I know Shaq's son played for FAMU. He's transferring out, but neither here or there. There are ballers that are in HBCUs.
I went
And
to Alabama State my freshman year, man, and I saw Alabama State playing Auburn a couple of weeks back in the tournament.
Mhm.
We didn't win, but it was good to see State there, man. I got to get me an Alabama State basketball jersey too. I was
Yeah,
looking for them online, like at the merch shop, man. I wish I don't know about fam because you always have some fresh fam gear, but I wish all the HBCUs would, what I'm saying, get their merch game on top, man, because I wanted one of them jerseys from the game. You know what I mean? Like,
man, when I find some plugs on some of that stuff, I'll send it your way.
okay, cool. I
Yeah,
appreciate that, man. Like, I want to represent, man. I remember when Bill Cosby used to wear the HBCUs and Martin too on
yeah.
this show. But yeah, I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, you cool, you cool. Yeah, man. So it's a fourth annual one. It's gonna be hosted. It's gonna be broadcast on the CW network. And like I said, it's about the representation. It's about getting these people highlighted and giving them some opportunities to get those looks. Because HBCU sports, it hasn't been like that. I mean, it's college football. It's college football. Just because they're HBCUs doesn't mean they can't rise to the occasion and do that. And fortunately, there was some light brought to it in the football space with Dion at Jackson State, and now you got Eddie George coaching, and now you have certain players that have stepped in the HBCU stuff, but it's not enough light. But in basketball, we didn't have that representation at all. There was, you don't hear about them, you don't see those games broadcasted or whatnot. So it's like it's just shedding light and giving those players the same opportunities and bringing light over there because there's athletes that come out of these schools. Even for my school alone, football wise, we got a guy that's on the Cowboys roster that just signed a new contract and he just came out of FAMU like a year ago and he balls. So and that's football. But like I said, the representation and stuff hasn't been there with basketball. We see it gradually with football. So we just want to get the awareness out there, and so this event could continue and it can grow, and hopefully some people get some opportunities with the pros or whatever leagues on a pro stature coming from HBCU. So yeah, go check out the interviews on the According to Hip Hop page with Travis Williams, man, and go to the website if you guys are able to make it. It's in San Antonio. I think the tickets are fairly cheap. If you're able to make it, you can buy tickets from the site. And if you just want to support, it's on the CW network. And check out the interview, man. I appreciate y'all.
Oh no, all day, man. Great stuff, man. Great interview, very informative, and what I'm saying, like I said, you did an incredible job. Speaking of interviews, and we'll get into the rest of the show. I know this wasn't really on the show title too much. Has
Mhm.
anybody out there seen the newest Kanye or Ye interview that's out there? Because I haven't seen the whole thing. I guess I want to speak kind of like to the overview of how these interviews have become. I just saw the imagery of it. I don't like the clips that I'm seeing from it. And and it's a shame because a person like Kanye West, whenever he used to do an interview, I would love to check out his interview because he would always have some not just controversial things to say, but things that to make you think about. And musically, I loved his musical conversations because clearly, regardless of whatever's going on with Ye, he knows his music, and I feel like the interviews and the context and the content of the interviews have gone away from that drastically, and everything that I'm hearing from it, it sounds like a train wreck. I know we're here to talk about music, and we're here to talk about those things that go along with the elements. But one thing I didn't love and don't love about what's going on with this current Kanye interview tour run is coming at Jay. And again, this is coming from the person who has once said on this platform that Kanye has really helped Jay out a lot. In some ways, I felt like carried Jay after the retirement. And I don't understand where this is coming from. I think there's many times where these things could have been said, or these things could have been expressed. But going at Jay, whether y'all are close or not, in 2025, it's just not a good look. Period. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is to come out of this positive? What is to come out of this period? Are you trying to get people to pick sides, or like it's pointless? It's divisive unnecessarily, and it's like it comes across as clout chasing to come at Jay-Z in 2025 when there's many a times you could have said something.
Yeah, I mean, Jay wasn't the only person he listed. I watched the bulk of it, like bits and pieces. It led from the highlights, but a lot of those
Okay.
highlights was basically the bulk stuff that people really give a damn about in that interview, let's be honest.
Low
So
light.
it's the controversial stuff. I didn't see anything groundbreaking or compelling. It was like some clown shit. I don't normally like act, but what I can appreciate about academics with this is he kept it true to what he is as an influencer. He went from him in the car leading up to the room or hotel, whatever Kanye was at, and him leading in to go in the door and setting up, and Kanye putting on the black KKK outfit, whatever. Act did everything from his standpoint as an influencer or one of the young guys in the media space that they're supposed to like. Basically, what he's doing, he did what he was supposed to do. I expected nothing more, nothing less from Act. With those type of interviews, they're never really structured with Kanye. So you just let a guy like that talk, but it was a clown show for me because it's like I can't be mad at Act for taking on that interview because no matter what, Kanye's still Kanye. Like any other like person that has that stature is gonna bring stuff to you, whether it's gonna be negative or whatever attention. So I couldn't even say I wouldn't entertain it, but that as an interviewer, you're not always gonna interview people you like. You're not always gonna interview people you dislike, but that's your chance to press them about anything that you have on mind or anything that you want to address with them. And that's why I don't really see the pushback when those opportunities are given in this type of sense. It's kind of like more so happy I'm interviewing Kanye. And it's like, I already knew how the interview was going to go, and that's being the case. Like, oh, I got Kanye on here, and this is what we do. Just let him go. We're in a world of everything is for content. I'm seeing like a RICO trial going on with Big U and everything right now, and people are calling in and talking about active investigation with Adam 22, and it's like everything is for content. Everything's for content. So it's just like I expected nothing more, nothing less. But at the end of the day, is like I'm not gonna listen to Kanye's message because what he has done or who he is. So yeah, he can make points about what's being marketed that's destructive or whatever, but look what you're doing and what you're saying as well. So it's hard to take anything that you say with a grain of salt or appreciate what you're saying because you're a part of the issues with what's going on, more importantly, with whatever hate or whatever things that have to be said. You want to talk, and it sort of seems like to me when he's back against the wall and he knows that he's saying some bullshit or doing some bullshit, he tries to throw in a little bit of a point there to get some people on the side, like it's for a bigger purpose of what he's doing. And really it's more so like a cry for help from how I'm looking at it. Is like you have this guy and he's talking about, oh, fuck Jay-Z because he wanted to come into the industry and it's a family and that's all he ever wanted, and he stood up for them, and all Jay has ever did is not go to his wedding and stuff like that he said previously on Twitter. It's like, it's ridiculous stuff. To me, it sounds like a cry for help for me. Like, this is a guy is definitely unhappy with his life, unhappy with things are doing. He admitted his jealousy of Kendrick and his praise for Drake, which is weirdly back and forth with that. And it's just like, stop making it seem like saying things to get people on your side or whatever. I mean, he's really contradictive in nature. And honestly, it's just clownery. And I'm sorry, I'm being winded on this. It just, I can't say.
You're the one that watched the interview. You watched the interview. I haven't seen it.
I didn't watch it fully because it's just so many things. I'm just like, I'm not buying this. You're still the rebellious dude that's standing up for the culture, or you're about that all that. Nah, dog. Like, I'm not with it. It's a clown show, and at this point, I've said it on a few other shows. I hate covering this guy. I hate having to have the conversations about him talking. I will look at the clips. I'll always see like whatever controversial, but I'll be damned if I sit down and talk and listen to a whole interview of what he has to say when it's just a regurgitation of everything he's been doing throughout his career. You know, nothing has changed. It's the same approach. Album drop, controversy, sit down, get some controversial moments out of an interview, you know, some things, the Twitter rants. It's kind of like, bro, it's same song, same story. Change the channel, man. I don't have time for this. You know,
I want to be clear. Like I said, I've just seen the clips. I haven't seen the whole interview. You know, like I said, you've seen a lot more of the interview than I have. I'm going to check out the full interview and be able to give that, you know, that input from that standpoint. But from what you're saying, it does sound a little bit more of the same from what, you know, the other interviews that we've had from Ye. Again, I don't like the tone from the clips that I heard. And it does seem like, again, those things that you're speaking about, those seem very characteristic of, you know, some of the other interviews that have happened in this time and space, you know, from Ye. But again, man.
Yeah, it's corny, man. Like, from the
setup. I mean, what did you guys think? Did anybody in the chat check out the full interview? And
I want to know what you guys
said. I think that the move, that something that you said is very interesting. It is always the move where it's like, I'm gonna say something controversial, but what about this over here? And I do want to address, you know, something that somebody said in the chat, is the fact that he's talking about the destructive music that has been made, you know, over the period of time when it comes to hip hop. And those are true things. Those are conversations that have been had, always have been had, right? You know, people will be like, okay, well, what about people who are talking about, you know, destructive violence in our community, and it gets promoted through music? That's not cool either. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of the things are cool. I guess where I'm going with it, I don't like when we'll go out here and not talking about Ye specifically, because again, I ain't see the whole interview, but I do trust what you said and your depiction of it. That's why, you know, I asked you.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's like I don't like that whole thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this, but when you criticize that, well, what about this over here?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, through all the bullshit, he tried to sprinkle a little bit of stuff that we can agree on, and be like, and then it's like a psychological play on things. Like, yeah, I'm gonna say a bunch of this bullshit, and then I'm gonna throw a little bit of things that people are gonna agree with and that they like. And then people will say, "Oh, yeah, he's fighting for something bigger. It's bigger than this. Kanye's really no, dog. Like, bullshit is bullshit." You know what I'm saying?
All right, well, this is when I remember when the whole fashion thing was going on, right? And I'll put this in a little bit of context. This is around Yeezus time, when he was talking about being locked out of the fashion industry. Around the time with the whole Sway thing, where, you know, Sway was like, "Well, why don't you do T-shirts?" And Kanye's, you know, blah blah blah, saying that, look, I've done the work, done the hours. You don't know, you know what I'm saying, the struggle I'm going through and this and that. And a lot of people viewed that as he's fighting for, a lot of people viewed that as him complaining about not fitting into a certain society, right? And not fitting into the fashion industry. And I remember me thinking like, well, nah, he's actually speaking about how unbalanced it is for, you know, Black manufacturers, or, you know, manufacturers who are out of the loop, or fashion designers who aren't getting the same breaks that some of these other fashion houses are getting. And again, I don't know the intricacies of his industry and how, accurate everything was on that end. But what he was talking about did, somewhat make sense as far as like, okay, he's fighting for something, but people viewed it as him complaining about something. And so I feel like that's kind of been the whole tone of his quote unquote rants since the
It's always
beginning.
been
And
self-serving
now
though.
it's like,
It's
what's the fight for?
it's always seemed self-serving, and he paints it as if he's doing this for the people. If I do this, I
That's
fight for
fair.
this, I fight for you guys. But it's always been self-serving. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and it's like having a leader that's brainwashing people and making them think so, but it's all everything that's is only benefits them. It doesn't benefit the others, and it's just
Yeah.
like, okay, you had this thing with fashion, you want to do the thing easy, you brought this apart, oh, this is a fight, this is a fight. But what doors does that open for anybody else? That only open doors for you and what you do and what you brag about. You could say whatever, and my stuff is gonna sell. Like how you try to do it with the music, it was self-serving. Yeah, that's the biggest piece that where you gave people some opportunities there. You signed some people, you reignited some people's career. Like that's one thing I can give him credit for is he did help some people musically. But you
Yeah.
also are contradictive in nature because you talk about how the industry do people, but you're the same person that people could say the same thing about you. Like, let's not forget that Big Sean in his situation over there and how that, contract and all that stuff. Let's not forget how like Tiana Taylor's gripes about you musically and what you did over there. Like, you
Yeah.
haven't been great as a exec on the end of running the label, but you are doing the same things that you blame these white execs for doing. So it's like, it's so contradictive in nature, man. And it just always seems self-serving. And I'm not buying that bullshit this time. I didn't buy it the last time. I didn't buy it the time before. So it's kind of like if people choose to entertain Kanye and that's what he's on, cool.
Oh,
There's a
I got
lot
to
of
see
people
real
that do a
quick.
lot of yeah. What are you saying?
Say, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do messed up things that may have a good reason to justify what they do, but it doesn't
Well,
mean the shit's
speaking of
okay.
which, Jermaine Johnson said, I understand academic doing the interview, but I would never allow anyone to wear a full KKK uniform while standing right in front of me. Have some
I agree.
pride. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
what again, I saw the imagery, and again, other than me feeling like it's shock and awe or whatnot, I didn't go out there and search YouTube to see, the breakdown on why this was done and what the deeper meaning was. Have you heard of anything of people saying that, the uniform had some sort of deeper context or deeper meaning, or anybody in the chat?
No. I know you ask people chat. For me, I
No, no,
I
I'm
haven't seen
asking
anybody
you, and
talk about
I
that.
was
Oh, okay,
additionally
yeah. I see people like as far as people the I guess the IG blogs or the little hip hop joints, reposting it. It's clips, and that's how I was seeing it. And I went on and checked for some stuff check for the full thing uncensored on YouTube. But I got like a certain part through it, and I'm just skimming. I'm clipping certain things and going back to see the full
yeah,
point. But I didn't check out the full interview, man. It's kind of like I said, I don't check for the stuff, but being that I know we're gonna come on here and we're gonna talk about it, I feel
right,
like it's my duty to go at least see what the bulk of the stuff was to discuss it here.
cool,
But I don't I like I said, I don't care about what Kanye has to say at this point. Even if you have a lot of great points, it's always gonna be overshadowed with the immense amount of bullshit that you have to tower that. From whatever one point you have, there's like 50 or 60 other things that you have done that overshadows it. And it's like, I don't, at that point, it doesn't care. We don't care. We don't have sympathy for whatever your situation is. And you talked about man's kids like that. We don't
yeah,
have, that sympathy towards you when you have talked about other people. And he's a supreme narcissist. And it seems like anybody who like is not with the shit, he automatically turns against. Now you see him talking about Ty Dolla Sign. We've seen what he's talking about with Jim Jones. You
I
see
thought
how
that
he's
was
talking about
weird
John
too.
Legend. You know what I'm saying? Like Pusha
Yeah.
T. Like it's corny, man. It's corny.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man. Yeah, I was really taken aback, excuse me, from the Ty Dolla Sign thing and Jim Jones as well. Like we could say whatever. about, Ty Dolla $ign. Like, Kanye's been controversial for a minute now, and even in the midst of all of those things where the establishment, it kind of pushed him out, and anybody who was working with the establishment was, gonna feel repercussions for working with him. Ty Dolla $ign went out there and made 2 projects with him that he really didn't have to do. So, with him lashing out on Ty Dolla $ign, again, I watched the full thing in the context of it. I thought that was wild. But again, it's not everybody else. It can't always be everybody else. And it's like, who's next? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's next? Westside Runner with the super chat. Shout out to Westside Runner, dope name. Says, where is the outrage when Lupe wore his KKK outfit? Rappers got actual bodies and killed people, and there's no outrage. Shaking my head. What say you to that notion? Because that is a narrative out there as well.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't check for Lupe, and that's no shot. Lupe is just it wasn't on my radar of people I check for anything. So I was just brought this information, through our chat when we were talking about it or whatever. It was mentioned in our personal chats or whatever, and I was like, I didn't even know. I don't know what goes on in that world of Lupe.
Well,
like I don't.
Leroy's
really
a big Lupe fan, and we just did a GOAT talk, and Leroy said in the chat that Lupe wore the KKK outfit to protest against music that promotes murder. Now, being objective here and being devil's advocate here, is that the same thing that Kanye's doing? I mean, I'm sure he's knowledgeable about when Lupe did it and why he did it, and that is part of Kanye's current message. So,
yeah, I mean, as far as Lupe,
or is that one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this is going to be explosive, but if somebody says anything about it, then I could say it's about this. I don't know.
Yeah, as far as Lupe, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about him, or I don't have nothing too good to say because I'm indifferent. I don't really have an opinion on Lupe. Like, as far as his music, I think his first project was great, but he's not a guy I constantly check for, so I don't have enough information to even speak on that. What he did or his purpose, I don't know it. I never even seen the pictures. Is there videos? There pictures of this? Like, does it exist in the YouTube world? Because if so, I'll go check it out. But I just didn't. I'm not aware. I'm not too hip on what Lupe did with that. But to my point of being totally objective, I think you can get your point across without doing it.
Yeah,
that simple. I think what Ye is doing is clown stuff. There's no excuse for it. Kanye is being a clown, and there's no right way to justify this shit at all.
I do think this. I think that once you reach a certain level of notoriety and global fame and influence, and he said it many times himself how influential he is. He's Walt Disney, he's this and that. Yes, he's all of those things. I do think there's a level of responsibility there when it comes to, you presenting yourself in certain garbs and understanding what those things mean. Like you said, I feel like somebody of that level of influence and notoriety can get that point across by speaking to that. I think that when you're at a status where, you're still trying to break through and there are a lot of people who are unfamiliar with you and unfamiliar with your message, then you may go out there and do those type of things to get the attention of people, and now they can listen to your message. I don't think that Kanye has to do any of those things to get people to listen to him. He could just put a microphone in front of his face and say whatever he needs to say. And, he's that influential. So the stunts and things like that, quote unquote, and I'm not calling it a stunt. I don't have the full context of what he was trying to do, but I would, like you said, I feel like those type of things for a person of his stature and his notoriety wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to do that. And when you did those things, they would be taken another way. And then it would be another thing for people to pull from you and discredit you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And it's just like, I think this is probably the last biggest deal that we're going to care about Kanye. I mean, unless something unfortunate happens or if he does something really wild, I think the antics is running dry. And I'm starting to see like the people. I'm not talking about the internet. Let's talk real life and people. I don't see them really giving a damn what Kanye's saying. I don't hear nobody talking about the music. The internet is going to corral with whatever is the hot topic or whatever they want to be outraged about. The hip hop, like new avenues for news and stuff, they're going to post about it. They're going to show the clips because, you know, all that stuff is about views and clicks and likes. But overall, I really see gradually the real people in real time are starting to give less of a damn. Like they're not giving a damn about him at all. Like it's getting less and less of how much they care about Kanye to where he's kind of a non-factor in people's minds with his current stuff he's doing. We'll always respect him for his past works and music and what he contributed in the music that we know and love from the past. But I don't think nobody cares about any of the stuff he's doing now.
Well, I don't think a person like that, like you said, can ever be erased. But musically, he's either got to come with it musically, or or yeah, the current music that he makes is gonna mean less and less. Now, I will say this, man: Jay-Z has something to rap about now, and I don't feel
Funny,
like
but
Jay's
I'm
had.
not.
I mean, I don't. I'm not
I
saying
don't
in
want to
that.
hear. I'm gonna be honest. As a Jay fan, like, yeah, he could address whatever. First of all, I don't know if we're ever gonna see another Jay album again. That's me being objective.
Yeah,
Would I want to hear one? Yes, but I can care less if he ever addressed this stuff or not. So I just want to hear what his perspective is at this point, coming off whatever 444 stuff. What do you have to talk about now? And I
right,
think that when stuff like this happens, unfortunately, that's what like people check for. Oh man, like they
right.
want to anticipate what Jay is gonna say. It's kind of like equivalent to like a rapper getting out of jail and people be like, "Oh, this next album gonna be fire." That's not how I really want to enjoy the music. Like I want the content to really be something that I could sit and enjoy, whether it's party music, whether it's something of introspect, whether it's like some type of message to convey and it's good, feel good music. I don't want to just go to you because there's drama or controversy around stuff.
And
You
that's
know,
fair. I agree with that. I do think that, and I'm not looking for Jay to go out there and battle Kanye or nothing like that. I think that between this and the stuff that's going on with Diddy and the attorney that went after him and all that, the Bugsby guy and all that, I think that some of the things that Jay has always implemented in his sentiments about fame and people continuously going at you, to be able to speak to those things that are happening still at this point in his life. And I'm sure that it's a personal thing. Like that's one of the things that made the Blueprint great. It wasn't about that the Blueprint was about Nas. It was fighting that level of adversity when everybody wanted to take you off the top, and just notions like where's the love, like first the Fat Boys breakup, like those records translated and they were so real because he was actually going through those things publicly and probably personally as well, because a lot of people that we don't even know the names of are some people that he would possibly personally addressing on those records also. And I
yeah.
think that as an artist and as somebody who utilizes lyrics and music as their outlet, all these things, when you just sitting there chilling trying to be a family man and all that stuff, all these things are still coming at you. It has to make you want to express that in some sort of way. I'll put it that way.
I mean, the way how I assess Jay is like from where he's at right now, I look at everything he's dealt with as man shit, but it's just from the
Mhm.
standpoint of a celebrity.
Yeah,
And I don't think he was always a saint. Obviously, he has addressed things he's done or said in the past, and those always it's been reflective. But unfortunately, when you've done some things that may have slighted some people or whatever, there's some people that have grievances with you. Whether they chose not to address it then, they're addressing it now. That's up to them. That's the prerogative. But I see a guy that reflects a lot and writes a lot, is trying to right a lot of wrongs and has grown to a certain point. But
yeah,
people want to keep you there, and I mean that's something that he kind of spoke about on Allure on on the Black album. So it's like I see the growth in what he's doing, and I people like Kanye. It's kind of like, what do you want him to do? You want him to diss Kanye, or is Kanye and Jay is really gonna have a rap battle? No. Do you want him
no,
to go do some street shit to Kanye? That's not gonna happen. Like I don't
no,
understand what what people want from Kanye. I want from people to respond to Kanye as like I like when people ignore Kanye. I really like when people ignore him because it's like at the end of the day, what are you going to look to accomplish? Are you going to win against somebody who obviously don't give a damn about burying themselves and going as low as they're going. You know, Kanye has
Nope.
already said, I'm not attached to a corporation. I'm not attached to this. I can't be canceled. You know what I'm saying? But you may respond or you might go into the clown show or whatever. That might have repercussions for you. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't even like, honestly, you don't, when there's clowns, you don't join the circus, man. You really have to like just act
Take
like
the
the man
high
who
road, if
exists,
you will.
you know? But honestly, man, it shows you how irrelevant his music is today.
Yeah,
Because
unfortunately.
what we're talking about right now is not music related.
No,
What
and I wish
other
we were
people are
talking.
posting and talking about is not music related. I'm hearing more stuff about what he's saying in these interviews and these antics and his tweets more so than I am about the actual album.
Is
You
that
know,
where we're at in hip hop right now? And I've said this even when we talk about, artists, of a certain age, right? Like we are talking about the Missionary album with Snoop and Dre. It was like it was more talks about their drink champs than the actual album. And it was funny to me, people who were saying that they didn't know the album came out, like people who were older or whatnot, they didn't know the album came out. But if there was an interview, what I'm saying, where Snoop said something on Suge Knight or something like that, they would know all of that. Are we at the point now where rap artists, mainstream artists, I would say, of a certain age bracket, the gossip is more popular than the music?
it's not even age bracket. That's what music is now, period. Like a lot of these young artists, you got to think about how a lot of these young artists got like a lot of attention to them. It was like
Yeah,
around antics, and I'm not saying it's a shit on them, but let's not forget like the baby in a diaper out in the streets, or let's not
yeah,
forget about Young Thug in a dress, and the slang terms that it was using, or certain things that's going on, or there's always antics that brings more attention to people, and then they follow up with the music, and if the music is good, people just forget about the antics. So I think it's not just an age bracket. I think this is what entertainment has become now. Period. Is like people start to love the personalities and then the music second, which is not bad if the person is delivering good music. But when your antics is highlighting anything that you are doing musically or whatever, it's kind of like they don't care about the music. They care about this. And I think unfortunately that could hurt music, but music is already in a bad place beyond that, and like how we discussed 2010 in a prior show, and we talked about how that was a transformation year and there was a lot of people coming about. I would love to say that this is a transformation year. The only thing about it is I haven't really seen what's coming from this down period yet. And so
yeah.
we're still early in the year. So we don't know how it's going to materialize or what music is going to come, what new artists is going to pop up. But right now is one of those periods where I feel like it's just like a stale thing that's going. The meter's not being put high. The meter's not going low. It's just like it's real stale. We're in like hip hop purgatory right now. Like
I felt like
nobody's really dropping.
2020. I felt
Yeah,
like, not to interrupt you, but I agree with the 2010 thing because I remember when it was happening, you could feel that level of transformation and hip hop going into a different stage. We had new faces that were getting acknowledged because of the music they were putting out, the performances they were doing at these festivals, which we're going to get to as well. But I thought 2020 was a transformative year as well. The problem with 2020 was the transformation was coming from the non-mainstream sequitur, and that's not a problem, but it wasn't an opportunity because everybody was on lockdown for people to actually be outside, right? Everything was online. I mean, performances were online and everything, and you couldn't even really feel what the music was doing on a large scale. You just knew that you and your people liked it. And you know what I'm saying? And us conversating about it online and the people who wanted to chime in those conversations were loving it. And I think that there was some dope albums that came out in 2020 that I thought were going to really change the trajectory of where we were going to go for this, current decade. But when things opened back up, and the mainstream people open their doors back up, it feels like the folks who were non-mainstream were trying to be mainstream now, and then the mainstream people were just doing what they've always done, and then we didn't go anywhere.
yeah. I mean, if you guys didn't check out the last show that we did, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday. Like
Yeah, it was Thursday. Yep.
Thursday, Soup ran through a lot of new artist music to check for. So if you guys can go back and check that out, Super gave you guys a lot of new artists. And not only did he come with their names, he came with examples of their music for you guys to go check out. So if you guys want to know what the new stuff is, Super
I love
gave a lot of new artists to go check out. I gave some new artists or some artists that, have been bubbling and, need to be talked about more. I gave their names too. So there's music is being done. The mainstream is washed right now as far as hip hop.
straight
I
up.
mean, Dirt drop. We know Kanye had just dropped recently, or whatever you want to call that release, how that was done. Um, Will Smith just dropped. And we get rumblings of who's working on stuff right now, but there's no firm release dates. Like, I haven't seen where ASAP is supposed to drop. I seen Wale drop the single. We don't have anything about where he's dropping. I'm pretty sure that can come about as far as the conversation on Dreamville. Same with Cole announcing whatever he's going to do on Dreamville. We see
Right.
that Big Sean is probably like he got something coming in the works with Alchemist. We see Two Chains just dropped a project with Larry June, but Two Chains will have a solo project dropping with Alchemist. Like, there's a lot of like stuff that we're hearing rumblings of, but there's not the release date. So let's be patient. It's first quarter, and we just had to come off like this whole year of it being Kendrick and Drake, and I guess people are trying to figure out how to maneuver in the aftermath of that, without it being overshadowed by such a thing. So let's be patient and just be optimistic that somebody's gonna come and reignite this music being released. It's
Well,
out there.
you mentioned Cole, and Dreamville Fest is coming up, and
Mhm.
so there are rumors that Cole is dropping something. Well, this week before I guess Dreamville Fest or whatnot. How do I say this? I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't believe it's gonna happen. But um, is Cole the savior? Or have we just moved on from that notion of that big three collective is gonna be where we're going moving forward?
Um, I honestly want to say, like, we got to stop putting it all on one person to like be the people
Straight
that
up.
really, and especially with these three. That's like with these three, they're all like pushing 40. So that's like saying we're placing the ball in LeBron's hands and a couple other people that is getting up there in age, and we want you guys to remain the face of the league to keep this going. Nah,
Which
these
is what
young
they're
dudes,
doing.
you know what I'm saying? Like we when we place that type of expectations on them, then it leaves them up for unnecessary criticism, which everybody's open to criticism. But I think when you place those expectations, there's a little bit more of a heavier criticism for them. And they're just doing what they always do, is just drop how they drop. I think the thing that plays against Cole that people like to place against him is him backing out of that beef, which I wasn't a fan of it. So I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I wasn't a fan of him backing out, but I just don't think that kills him as far as what he can deliver artist wise. You know what I'm saying? His music never went. I could see if his music went down, like the quality of his music has plummeted. That hasn't been the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though he took that project, I don't know if it was a mixtape or album, however you want to consider it. Even though he took it down, I think it's back up on DSPs right now. But originally he took it down after everything. It still was pretty decent. So it's like Cole, unless he steps down from a beef and then the music is trash, then we can have a conversation. But he delivers musically. So if you guys want to count that as a strike to why y'all don't want to listen to him, cool. But for me, I'm still checking for Cole. He hasn't gave me anything that's been trash. I'm checking for it.
Yeah, he got
I
to drop a quality project. I think my
Yeah.
thing is, I mean, just drop it. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's past time. It would make sense to drop it, but again, I don't know. It doesn't feel like to me that the stuff that's cooking up is, stuff that he's like real excited about putting out there. Somebody was talking about the Weekend Rhyme show where they interviewed Damone Warren. Man, his project, The Process, he's where it's at, man. Dude's spitting. The process. If you didn't check out that interview. Excuse me, check that out. That's on the channel as well. And that interview was Saturday. Ron and Leroy Green did a great job interviewing him as well. But you're right. New music and new artists are, artists that haven't broken to the masses yet. That's where it's at. I mean, Damone Warren, he's on his
There's a
fourth
lot of
project.
talented artists.
Process is his fourth project. You know what I mean? And I think right now and I was just talking about this before you got on, when we talk about these all-time lists and all these things, I think that we kind of got to change our mindset on how we're viewing the music that comes out in hip hop. It's not going to be one artist who saves the game and runs the game and all of that. This has to be a collective of, veterans, rookies, you know what I'm saying? Veteran, non-mainstream people who are putting out quality projects. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, quality music is the leader, not any of these individuals. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, like there was an era where, a song would get played so much that you would just be tired of it. I haven't felt that in a long time, because the way music moves now, it just moves so fast, it's kind of in and out. But not like us, man. It's like the first song that I feel like I've literally is like, yo, man, put something else on. You know what I'm saying?
That way now. I'm kind of feeling like that now. It's like, but it's not Kendrick's fault. It's radio.
Not Kendrick's fault.
And unfortunately,
it's radio.
Radio is so bad right now. We're not finding our new music on radio. About time music hit radio, it's already went popular on the internet. It's probably already went popular in the streets already, and it's like,
and the internet's moved on.
Late. So about time we're already like something is already kind of played. The radio is gonna spin it all day or whatever. They're gonna play the same 5-6 songs every top of the hour. Man, it's just radio is just about is like, it's good for a broad base, but it's also, especially for the casual listener, but it's bad for searching for new music or getting whatever is new and hot. And that's what I say. And I agree with your point. And I think somebody also said that in the chat. Like, it's not going to be one savior for this. It's a collective effort. And that's what I enjoyed about hip hop back then, that there was variety. I can go out to a Best Buy and see, damn, one of them dropped the album, and they damn near makes you feel like I got to choose, like, am I going to get this one today? And when I get paid again, I'm going to come back and get that one. Like, it's like, to have that overwhelming of, man, there's a lot of music and it's quality and I get to choose. I don't know, I want to get back to that. And, of course, it's not physical how we consume music no more. We're not running out and going grab CDs, but I like the anticipation of, like, man, so-and-so is going to drop. Damn, so-and-so is going to drop too. Oh man, I have to, like, damn near create a schedule of how I'm going to listen to this stuff and be with the music. But unfortunately, like, one person would drop and this is like, that leads the headway and all conversation. Everything is like, just on that one person, and it's just like, it's bad not only for the artist, but it's bad for hip hop as a whole, because everybody is constantly going to cling on to whatever is the subject at the time, and it really overplays the artist as far as like relevancy or the what I would like to say is the longevity of how records stick around, So it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just, it is a weird place we're in, but like I said, Super introduced you guys to a lot of new hip hop on the Thursday show, and it's out there. You just have to go search for it. Unfortunately, it's not gonna. If you're waiting on these people to put in your face what is new and hot, then chances are it's gonna be something that you guys are gonna feel a certain way about, because you're gonna.
Well, that's what we can do, though, man. You know what? I think with Super kind of having his ear to the street in that way. You know what I'm saying? Reach out to some of these artists. Maybe they feel like a quick little conversation with Soup. You know what I'm saying? And we put it out there so people can get acclimated with the good music that's out there. Because again, the interview that was done this weekend with Damone Warren, man, with the process, like, a lot of people who didn't know about him before, they got put on to his music based on the interview, and they went and heard the music and loved it. So you sit there and talk to artists, and the artists, share that experience and what their music's like and what they're like and what their upbringing's like with the audience. You know what I'm saying? You get some new music in your life. Now, speaking of radio,
I'm used to certain quarters. There's like certain things that we look for. Like right now, we're first quarter, spring. That there's certain records that we check for around certain times, certain seasons. Where's that summer record of the year? Where's that stuff in the winter? It makes us, kind of have something to sit with and it's introspective, or like I don't see releases like that anymore. Like that's centered around the quarters or the time of year it is. Like, what are we out in the streets and playing during the summer? What's going on for like the winters and spring? Like, I don't really get like music being on cue with that anymore. And it's just like I don't even know how strategically stuff is being dropped anymore. It's kind of like a free for all, which could be
Yeah, it's not
good,
intentional.
which could
Yeah.
be good if there's good music quality that's coming from it. But when it's bad and we're getting like one big known album every so and so years, and it's on us to kind of go find whoever's bubbling and appreciate that, it's kind of like, man, music is what's being pushed into the forefront is like kind of like, man, come on, man. And it
Well,
opens up artists to be hated because so
yeah,
much news and so much attention is going to one person where it feels like overboard. It opens up that artist to hate because
yeah,
like I see it with Kendrick. Yeah, people could pick sides with the beef, but Kendrick wasn't. This is the most that we've ever seen the media around Kendrick. He's had
yeah.
great music beforehand, but the music quality and how it's being sensationalized makes people want to hate him because they feel like, man, you guys are dick riding.
It's
Or,
yeah, it makes him look
yeah,
overrated
it seems like
because
it's not authentic or genuine. Or even what I'm seeing, like with Doechii. Doechii made a good body of work, but her rise so fast and the constant attention and constant things being on there, it makes people develop a dislike for her. And it's just like we really have to have variety where it's not just one person being over. Everybody's gonna reach a hot moment where it's hotter than fish grease. Artists stand back. This is their moment. We've seen it with 50. We've seen it with, a lot of artists that had their chance. We've seen it with Drake. You know what I'm saying? Artists have their
Mhm.
moment and it's their time. It happens with everyone that hit a hot point, but at some point we still had diversity. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when we don't have that variety and diversity and you're upholding one, and it's just excessive to where it can cause people to not like them, man. And it kind of sucks, and it's unfortunate. That's what we came through in the music game right
Did
now.
you hear what Doechii had to say at the Billboard Women in Music Awards?
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
checked
play
it
it.
out in the chat.
Yeah, let me play it for the people real quick. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Creatives, we are the so she accepted the award for what was this award for? I'll get to that. That's not important. We are the executives. We are the creatives, we are the executives, and we are the innovators who are just as central to this industry as the men. Clock it. And I want everybody to hear me clearly when I say that it is not a button, it is our brains. It is not a machine, it is our leadership. It is not a conspiracy, it is our vulnerability. And it is not an agenda, it's God. We are the creators. So, kind of speaking to some of the plant notions and things of that nature, I will say this.
Mhm.
It is an industry just like anything else. And yes, when you do have the backing of the industry or many of the big time players in the industry and they finally recognize your talent and, want to make sure that you're on every stage possible, there is a button pressed. There is a button that is pressed. That take away from the talents of the individuals who have worked, their tail off to get to the point where they are being acknowledged by the masses. That's not to discredit any of those things, but it is a push that certain artists are able to achieve or get to that not every talented artist in the game is privy to. Like I remember when Janelle Monáe was making the best music of her career, in my personal opinion, with Arcandroid, even Electric Lady. Arcandroid was out of here. Like she would do interviews on NPR and BBC and things like that, and but she wasn't getting no radio play, getting no mainstream acknowledgement. And when it came in droves, right? And it wasn't just the music, you know what I'm saying? Maybe people caught up, but at some point somebody saw the work that was being put in, years prior and say, yo, this person deserves the stage or whatever. Those things do happen. Um, she's in a tough place, I would imagine, because all she's seeing is the work and the work that she's done, and she knows how talented her and her team are. And it sounds like people are discrediting her because they haven't, been following the work. When she does have a legit fan base and she has, legit um she has a legit following that's just growing and growing on its own. The industry's just helping with that. I think both things could be true. Put it that way.
So there's 2 points here. The
Hmm.
first point is we complain or we're concerned with artists that don't get their just due and are like being basically raped by these labels. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we always hear those horror stories, but then we criticize somebody that's actually pushing their artists to the forefront and doing what they're supposed to do and upholding what they're supposed to do as a label. And then I don't understand that. It's like, do you want your artists to struggle or do you want them to actually get the push to the forefront? Like, if a lot of dope artists was getting the same type of push, we'll have a lot of new stuff in the forefront that should be there. Second point is, if this woman is a plant, what is she a plant for? Is it a catalyst to bring a change to women's hip hop? Some substance or some creativity that's different? What is the catalyst? Because we know with these past few years what type of hip hop we've gotten for some women artists. Whether you like it, dislike it, we know generally what the content has been centered around. So when people throw plant allegations or whatever, I'm like, do you guys think about when you guys say that, like, what is it that's the bigger grand conspiracy of it? Is it the
I think
government?
for her, I think for
Like,
her
what is the
that
grand conspiracy of what makes it important in such a thing of it being a plat? I just don't get it.
I think for her, the plant conversation comes from, people feeling like, pushing an LGBTQ agenda. I think that's where the plant conversation comes from with her.
But why is she the poster child for that? Like, there hasn't been a Lil Nas X. Like, there hasn't been that shown in TV and all throughout Hollywood on TV shows, movies, or anything, even cartoons for kids now. So why is she the person that's the poster child for that? That's what I'm trying to understand. There's music execs in the game that are homosexual, and probably anybody on the outside, us, we don't know, but people within the industry probably knows. It's not the first time where it's homosexuals or bisexuals in the music industry. And whatever your belief is, I want to know why she the poster child for this. You know what I'm saying? Why is the agenda why does it have to be through her? Like, we don't see other individuals that have been fluid in sexuality not be given the same thing. That's what I'm saying. What is it about her? It's like, what is it that makes you guys say she's the one for this? She's the plant. She's because she's getting the attention and some notoriety right now. Like, what is it that, like, because I feel like in hip hop, everybody is a plant. Because everybody in the game to bring something that's different from what's already there. So essentially, all hip hop artists are plants.
I
I
will
just
say that. I will say maybe I
that's
could take it a step further. For the most part, damn near every artist that gets pushed to the mainstream gets pushed for a certain, reason, a certain agenda. There are music people in this game, but there are more business people in this game, and there are more people who have cultural agendas in this game than there are music people. So most people will see somebody and say, "Yeah, that person can put some gangster shit. We need more gangster shit and out there in the lexicon. We need the kids to be listening to gangster rap music." And I hate using the term gangster rap music because that's such a media term. But again, they had to have these signed artists that were pushing that kind of music to even have that media term to center it around. So you're right. I mean, to some degree, there are, it could be said that all artists who are signed and pushed on a major level are plants for something, whether
yeah.
people want to acknowledge that something or not, because not many people sneak in the game. And this is why I get so disappointed with Ye too, because I feel like he's one of the few people that was able to sneak into the game because he was a producer. They didn't want him making the music that he was making. They didn't want him to make the message, put out the message that he was putting out there. They didn't want him to make Jesus walks, but the fact that he was able to not only fund himself but brand himself as a producer and didn't have to change his message because he already had people who were going to listen to what he was going to put out, they almost kind of had to get behind him. But for the most part, these people who are putting the artists in your face that you're acknowledging and that you know now, they have reasons for why they put these people in your face. And it's not just Doechii. It's not. I mean, I think people pick and choose who they want to acknowledge as a plant or not. I think she shouldn't focus on these things and focus on the music, because I think some of the things she said on stage, I guess that hits because she knows how hard she worked, but there is a button that gets pushed.
Yeah, and obviously the button's been pushed. The label is working, and she's using them 50-50.
Exactly.
I mean, she's very early in her career. This is one of the last artists that really got real artist development, because she's been around. It's just like she'll pop up, little EP mixtape, have a single, but she's been on TDE for 4 years. She's not new, but now you can see when she's ready and they press the button, it's on go. Now, does the success oversee for her right now only because you only have one project that's really known to the world that people see? Yeah, but are we doubting that she can't deliver? No, I think this girl actually has talent, but I don't think she needs to be the poster child or the plant. And because if you think she's the plant for whatever agenda you're saying it is, she's late to it, because she's not the reason why some of these artists have your sons dressing the way that they do and doing the things that they do. Like, we were just talking about Playboy Cardi or whatnot. Do y'all not see what he wear? Do y'all not see what what's the name? What's the guy? Uzi Vert? Do we not see like this stuff? And like, look at y'all fashion.
Some could argue that they're plans too.
Like,
some
where
could argue that they're plans too. That some would argue
her influences doesn't, like, what was going on beforehand? Why is she a poster child? Like, this stuff is, if she's the plant for that, then she's very late in the game, because that's well implemented into entertainment business right now. Why is she the poster? Because she openly said she's bisexual?
Mad Max with the super chat says, "You guys are trying too hard, LOL. People don't think that she's dope. Innately so. When we see someone being forced like her, they call her a plant. Doechii ain't even a real rapper. Cakes the Killer is greater than her, and he's part of the LGBTQ, I think."
But that's the thing. I'm not trying to convince people to like her. I don't tell you guys to like her.
Too. And that's that 2020 effect, in my personal opinion. When I say the 2020 effect, I think about where that was the moment where musically, media, and all of that, we were all on the same level, the mainstream, the underground, right? I think that during that time period, people got put on to a lot of artists who aren't mainstream, that they see are dope, and they're like, "Yo, this person is fire! Like, they're better than Cardi B." And I say Cardi B because she's probably the most mainstream, person out there. And it's like, when people see that imbalance, it makes the person that's on look like they're on for reasons other than music. You know what I'm saying? And I think before, when radio would give us our artists, television would give us our artists, for the people who didn't know better and were pedestrians as far as, like, their music consumption, we just thought that, okay, well, this person's the best at what they do because they're on TV. You know what I'm saying? They made it. And I think that since everybody from a recording and distribution level is at the same level, it's kind of taken that part of it away. And the ones who are mainstream, they suffer for it to a certain extent.
I think there's a lot of people that are being victims just to the hype, because there is hype around her name. It's her turn. They press the button on her, but I think she will deliver. I do think she will deliver. I think she has a talent. You guys don't have to like it, but I think she'll deliver. There are some people that's going to like it. There's going to be somebody that love it. Not everybody, even our favorite artists, no matter if it's Jay, Nas, Big, Pot, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be the contrarian on liking the music. There's always going to be there. So I don't expect everybody to like her. I don't expect her to be on everybody's top list. She's never claimed to be necessarily a rapper. She's an artist. The girl could sing too. She could write. She could rap. She's an artist. But I'm not trying to convince people to listen to. I'm not convinced people to be fans, but you guys, I'm trying to convince you guys to actually look at what you guys are saying and understand what's being said. Because like, if she's the plant for whatever you guys are saying it is, then what's going on with what's been going on with hip hop for the last 10 to 20 years? Because
We
it's
could go
been really
further.
suspect, not only from the lyrics, but to the fashion and to the agenda that's being pushed before that. And that's before Doechii. There's been a lot of like, do you look, go to, I challenge you guys. If you guys want to know what this current generation is like, go to your local mall and see what the clothes look like. See what fashion is like for the young man these days. See where we at and to ask what we get here. That's not due to Doechii, man. That's not her that was pushing that to the forefront. Let's talk
Jermaine
about
Johnson. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
there's certain people as far as artists that we love. We talk about Future. We talk about loving like certain things. People complained about Wayne being on a Super Bowl, but then in the same breath, depending on whatever the conversation is, they'll blame them for the drug use in hip hop today. But they'll never say, "Man, they're a plant for this, a plant for that." I just think it's her time. And unfortunately, with our culture, when some people get amount of success so much where it seems excessive, people grow to hate it, man. And it's just like I just don't get it. I don't get it because we complain about certain things being in the light, and when it gets there to a certain thing, it's just like people just want to hate it. And it's not just seen with Doechii. I've seen it with a lot of artists that had their time and it was bubbling, and people just are mad at the success of them. I can't stand them, man. They just always talk about the noise. Bro, you have an option to click whatever, scroll up whatever it is on your phone, to turn the channel, whatever it is you're looking at, and just whatever. You don't have to be a participant. Like, I think there's a lot of bred hate just from the success of people within the culture, and I just don't get it, man. It's like, if it's music, cool. If you don't like it, you don't have to like all of it. I don't like everything, so I'm not gonna be mad at everybody who just doesn't like what I like. I can care less. But man, like I just don't understand certain points on what people use. And like I said, hip hop's such a contradiction that the same thing they say about her is like, what can we say about the last 10 to 20 years of agendas and music that's been pushed? Who do you guys call the plants for all of that shit?
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says it's never an issue when male rappers consistently talk about threesomes and lesbianism. Girls want girls where I'm from energy. But as soon as Doechii raps about it, it's a problem now. Shaking my head. Hey, I mean, again, like, I feel like NWA, who I'm a fan of, by the way, I think that they brought a lot of disruption and destructive things to music, and hip hop music specifically. And we crown them and we praise them for being edgy. One of my biggest what ifs, and we didn't talk about this last week, was like, what if Ice Cube is around for the second NWA album? And in my personal estimation, I feel like, man, with the tracks that were on Niggas for Life and the Ice Cube that we got on Death Certificate, was this 91 for both of those? That would have been one of the greatest hip hop albums ever made. But what happened was, we didn't get that. And Cube is the writer and was the writer, and the purpose, I would say, for Straight Outta Compton. Like, the music it was going somewhere, right? Like, it might have sounded very disruptive, destructive. Straight Outta Compton is this and that, but it had a point because Cube was always going somewhere with his writing. For me, Niggas for Life was like, it was just reckless. You know what I'm saying? And they were just being the world's most dangerous group to be the world's most dangerous group. Now, musically, it took us to a lot of great places. I think that it's like pre-Chronic, but the stuff that's talked about on Niggas for Life is, I think, some of the worst stuff ever in hip hop, content wise, right? But again, we're not critical of those things. And I think that those guys ushered in something in hip hop that never went away, things that we're still complaining about today. And one could say that NWA was a plan. If we want to have that conversation, right? I think that anybody who pushes those boundaries and not always a positive way. We could say the same thing about Lil' Kim and what she did with hardcore. There are two ways to look at hardcore. Some people could look at hardcore and say this was exploitive, and you could also look at it and say it's sexual liberation. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on what angle people want to take from it and for it, or for what individual it is. And I think that a lot of that has to do with if you're a fan of the music or the person or not.
Yeah, and then another thing, we're here because what was before us. And I need a lot of people to, this is not what
That's
we're
true.
seeing
I
now
agree with
is
that.
not, yeah, what we're seeing is now is not just a grand thing that these people are going to push in the
Exactly.
forefront to
The
change the game.
evolution.
No, this what we're getting now, even outside of music, when we even think about our youth, this is a reflection of what they seen before them, and they're thinking about how can I take this to the next level. So
Exactly.
if
And
you
they
want to
didn't
blame the
get
new
this shit out of
artists,
nowhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to blame the new artists and the new generation for anything, you have to kind of look at what was it that they were looking up to prior to this.
You know,
And
and I want to take that, and not to interrupt you, but I do want to get this point because I had this conversation with Ryan too, when we were talking about drill music and all that shit. And long story short, but anyway, even when we talk about the N word and the use of the N word, which really got prevalent in hip hop, NWA, and some others as well, late '80s, early '90s, and then you have these older black people at the time who were acting like this came from outer space. Like, no, this came from Richard Pryor. This came from Fred Sanford. This came from Dolomite. All of the people in the '70s who were utilizing this word in that way. And then you had a generation after them who took it to the next level, and it wasn't on comedy records anymore. Now it's on musical records. And like you said, each generation says, you know what can I do to push what I'm influenced by to the next level? And this is where we're at.
yeah, like I'm gonna use this as an example. We have NWA, then we get whatever that comes from that tree. We have the Death Row movement, we have Cube and all that, we got Pac, and then let's go throughout whatever years, and then boom, we get 50. So you have 50 and what he's doing and his content. What do you think
You could
was the
say
next
that comes
level?
from the Pac tree, right? We could say
Yeah.
that comes from the All Eyes on Me tree, if we will, because Pac is a very complex individual. But let's look at his image from All Eyes on Me. 50's launch is All Eyes on Me Part 2, right?
So what was that? 2003.
Okay.
Get Rich or
Yeah.
Die Trying, right?
Yep.
We're in 2025. We haven't seen an artist like 50 that comes through there. There's still artists that have violent content or whatever, but they're coming off NWA, coming off whatever was like from that tree, and then we get 50, and then we look at where we're at now. What do you think who's going to be the next step? Who's going to take it to that next thing? We have, if you guys have to look at the elevation of music when we get there, you don't think that some of these young artists came up listening to certain artists and was like, yeah, this is who I was inspired by, this is who I love or whatever, and they're thinking about
Yeah.
how can I take this to the next step? So we talked about it in the music. Now it was because you got to keep it real. If you're not real, if you're not doing what you're talking about in your music, and now you have the evolution of that these artists are really doing that shit and getting arrested and catching Ricos and dying, and they're like, oh man, this youth is so crazy and they have no respect and whatever. It's like, what do you think the next step was going to be after all of that? They just came up listening, seeing what was going on before him, and try to implement whatever it is that they can introduce and see how can they can take it further than what was before. So at the end of the day, we gotta stop blaming them, man. It was a trickle effect.
Rewind it a little bit too. You remember the Beef DVD eras, and not just the Beef DVDs, but just the DVD era in hip hop with Jim Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like 50 and all, the Game. 500 Miles of Running. Like, not only was this on wax now, but they were also taking this to DVD, which would be YouTube now, right? And so these things are evolutions of themselves. And like you said, even though I don't know who Chief Keef's inspirations were, but I would imagine that it was something. I mean, Chief, how old is Chief Keef? About 30 now? Because I know he was super young in the early 2010. So
he's still young.
Let's just say that his influence, excuse me, let's just say hypothetically his influence was 50, and I think that he might have even been too young for that, right? But even with that, he takes things a step further, and say everybody else who's doing drill music, Chicago. I think some of his influences are, saying some early Chicago drill music folks, but whatever. And so you have the kids who were growing up listening to him, taking what drill music in Chicago was during Chief Keef's era to a whole nother level. Um, Obviously, you got people like Pop Smoke, right? Who were clearly influenced by, that era as well. And it just continues to push forward. And then, you got the older folks who are like, man, the young folks are crazy. Like, no, the young folks ain't crazy. Do you hear what we were listening to? The
Yeah,
young
man.
folks are just the evolution, and they're going to push the boundaries further because they can't go out there and do the same shock value shit that somebody did 10 years before them. They got to do something even crazier. And you're even seeing it with the women in hip hop. If you want to go to that
That was
sector
the
of
next
it,
one. Yeah.
you got hardcore with Kim with dropping 96, or with Kim and Foxy were doing what they were doing. And then we see what Trina was doing in 99, which was clearly influenced by Kim and Foxy. I hear that Kim was highly influenced by Adina Howard too, which is interesting. And then you got Trina taking it to the point where clearly the city girls are influenced by her. You know what I mean? And it just keeps going on and on and on. It is what it is. I mean, no, I'm not saying that somebody says de-evolution, not evolution. I mean, it depends on how you look at it and how, it was presented to you. But what I'm saying is each generation is going to take the shock and awe that was happening in the previous generations and take it a step further. And
Yeah,
that's
I
what it
mean,
is.
unfortunately, when I was in the forefront, we get more of that. But then there's a good side that comes to that too, because just like there were artists like MC Light, Queen Latifah, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Now you can get a Shay Noir or a Rhapsody, or you know what I'm saying. Like there's artists that
yeah,
really want to be spitters. Like I'm looking at how Remy took wanting to be a spitter. Like she didn't look at herself as a female artist. She looked at it like I'm just as dope as the guys too. So you have the fruit that's coming off multiple trees, man. It's just about what's being put in the forefront in the masses. Like there are people that are inspired by ones before them, and you just have to be like honest with yourself and how we look at music and stop trying to blame it on one the youth or blame it on one era, man. It's been a culmination of things that just gradually have grown through what the next level, whatever it was, whatever else was. It went from artists just talking about the environment that they grew up in to artists actually talking about the violence that they see, to artists actually being the ones that's doing the violence, to artists actually starting to actually live that
yeah,
shit fully and then rapping about what they're doing. Like it's an evolution of this. But like I said,
yeah,
just like all the bad that's like came from that, there's some good that's came from that too. And that's how we can
yeah.
get people like the big three or people that like are real spitters that we could appreciate that are probably lesser known. Like those people are inspired by the people like that was before him like that. So I'm like I said, the balance is just off, you know.
Well, I
But
mean, I do think, and you mentioned Shay Noir, I do think that when it comes to people like Doshi, there is a sector out there that feels that Shay Noir should have that stage. And I don't feel like it's about that. You know what I'm saying? Like you
pregnant
said,
right now.
we all have our own devices. We all have our outlets where we're listening to music. You have the ability to support all of the artists that you want to support and make sure that they get to where they need to get to. And Shay probably doesn't want the stage that Dolce's on right now. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to find the people, like you said, there's evolution when it comes to the antics, there's evolution when it comes to the stage shows, and there are people who focus on the next era of writing. You just got to find the people who are in that lane that you hold important. You know what I'm saying? And listen to those folks. The mainstream's not going to be what the mainstream was 30 years ago or 20 years ago. The
Yeah.
mainstream has moved on to whatever they're going to push. We can't trust the mainstream to go out there and give us it's dark and hell is hot in 2025. That's not going to happen. Shit, the mainstream really wasn't going to do that then. I think that the game was just in a vulnerable place and DMX was able to exploit that. But, you know, artists are putting out music. They, you know what I'm saying, putting out dope bodies of work. And I think these lists and what the criteria for these lists are, it kind of makes people feel like certain artists should have a stage that another artist does. But there's room on the stage for everybody, for sure.
It is, but it's up to them. That's where we have to kind of blame the media and the outlets that reports on hip hop,
Sure.
because just like how all of them are going and talking about Kanye right now, why are they not talking about this dope budding artist that really has quality that's not beyond the antics, is talent? Why are they not
Right.
doing that? Because the media, they still have to have their clout, they still have to have their likes and their follows, whatever. They're not
Yeah.
pushing about these new artists. It's also the media's standpoint to like really be responsible in the uptick of that as well. Because I remember that there were platforms for that. They had a Yo MTV Raps, they had a Video Box, they had a BET Sold, and then that gradually went to Rap City. I remember Hits from the Street. I remember the Basement, Rap City Basement. I remember 106 and Park and TRL if you're on the MTV side, or Direct Effect or stuff like that, where
Oh,
they
Direct
have new
Effect. That was a
artists.
dope show.
Yeah, where they have artists are able to, like the new ones are able up there to really kind of get some shine and do these quick interviews and introduce their new stuff. And we don't know if it stays on a countdown, but at least you get introduced to it in some way and be introduced to them in some way. And we don't have that right now. So it's kind of like on the media as well to kind of put that into the
It is on the
forefront.
media.
Yeah.
It is on
So
the media, and
like,
I fall into that a lot too, man. When you have people out here like Shade Noir, like there's a wide open opportunity for there to be various write-ups on a subject like her who doesn't get a lot of media coverage, whether that be mainstream or even grassroots media coverage per se. And I think that we all fall into the algorithm, if you will, of talking about the same people and the same things. I mean, I've sat here and seen many of these podcasts sit here and talk about Kendrick. We've fallen into that as well, where it's like
mhm,
we talk about the same fucking people all the time, just so they can
all
make
the time.
sure that there's a certain amount of people in their room to listen to them talk. Now, we just have to understand that, as journalists and as media outlets, that yeah, if we speak on a certain artist, we might not get the amount of likes that we're gonna get or the amount of views that we're gonna get if
Mhm.
we're talking about Kendrick or whoever or Drake. And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But I think that there are not enough media outlets and podcasts who are willing to take that leap and say, you know what, I'm gonna actually do something different and get this artist light that needs that level of light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
and
at that point, it's for the culture.
and that's why I appreciate Thursday's show so much, because you know I'm gonna keep on giving him credit for this, but Super, he gave you the new artist. He actually went to go listen to it. I gave you some artists to check for and everything. It's kind of like we have to prop that up more. If there's some good stuff,
Yeah.
let it be known. Put it in the comments. Put it in the chats. Let's talk about it. Force these platforms to put up what you like, and stop just settling for them just giving you the same thing over and over again, and we just allow it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the people contribute to the likes and whatever. They just only go on what's in demand. Once they
Mhm.
see, oh man, we're not getting enough likes when we talk about, they move on to whatever it is. We got to kind of
Yeah.
spin things and change it, man, because like I said, that's unfortunate or what's going on with music now, because we do have to search for it. But at the end of the day, it's not that it's not existent. It's existent. It's out here. But we're in that period right now where it's kind of like it's stale. And so we're gonna have to go do some work and go search for it. But that's a problem for kids and those college students, those teens in 2010, when they're in the blog era and they're going to
Mhm.
check to see who the next artist is, or the younger generation that's going to SoundCloud and going to check who it is, and they're supporting it and there's a lot of artists that blew up off SoundCloud. There's a lot of artists that blew up off blogs and the mixtape circuit or whatever. It's just the way that it's presented and talked about and promoted these days is real poor. And like how you said, like when you're not discussing whatever the hot topics are, whoever said anything, you're not going to get the likes or whatever. Now, you guys look at our show right now. We do it every Monday, right? You guys are here with us, and I appreciate y'all being here with us. But throughout this week, check and see how many people just all talked about Kanye.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
You're
fully
right.
Kanye.
And check
You know
the
what I'm saying? They're
check
not
the
moving the
fellow
needle. They're not having
podcast.
more engaging
Yeah.
convo. Like there's going to be a million podcasts, and all of them are going to be talking about the same thing in the same manner.
In the
That's
same
where,
way,
as media, we
it
do
just
our
gets
job.
so stale and redundant. And like you said, it doesn't put the onus on anybody to even make any better music. All they know now to get attention, you ain't got to make great music to get attention. You ain't got to make no classic album to get notoriety. You just got to go on certain platforms and talk crazy because everybody else
Yeah.
is going to go out there and regurgitate these talking points, get on podcasts and talk about, debate about, what I'm saying, what this person said about this person and this and that. Like, where does the music win when it comes to all of this? And I think the part that's messed up is you got artists who are out there putting together dope music that can't get their foot in the door because everybody want to talk about gossip and want to talk about
Exactly.
non-music shit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's not what we're here for, and that's not what you guys are here for. Let say the gossip for somebody else, man. Like if we're gonna really elevate music, it does start with the consumer. And for those artists who are putting together music and putting music first, keep doing that. You're gonna get your acknowledgement. We're gonna make sure of that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's certain things that happen that takes over all hip hop that we're gonna touch down on. We talk, deliver the news, or even have a take on it. But our whole thing is we're not going for the hot take. We're not going for the controversy. It's how whatever we discussed it, man. We sat here and talked about Kanye, but it's not sensationalism. It's not like whatever. We're being honest. We're being objective, man. And we're giving our opinions on that. But I'm not about to build a whole show around that. I'm not about to use that as promo to get you guys to come like the stuff. It's like, hey man, we're gonna have real conversations here, man. And I appreciate y'all. And I'm saying this beforehand because we got a lot more show to go, but I appreciate y'all for checking in with us every Monday and see the conversations that we bring, because the news cycle is ass right now, and it's on us to bring the creativity. It's on us to bring new perspectives, even if it's on old music and we have new takes on it or new ideas of how to talk about it now sat with us. It doesn't matter, as long as we're bringing you guys that's new, something fresh and a different perspective, or just new conversations, man. It's kind of all hip hop is a culture, and it's on all of us to preserve it, man.
I agree. And, with that being said, Summer Jam is a brand. Summer Jam means something in hip hop. Hot 97 Summer Jam up in New York. They just released their lineup. And, they past couple of years, their lineups have been, not too much for people to talk about because, again, I think when it comes to Summer Jam, we think, Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? We think, Wu-Tang or whatever. Summer Jam at its height. New York hip hop. That's what I've always thought. Anyway, this is what their lineup is this year. A Boogie, Gunna, Glorilla, Manu Long. How you
Money
say her
Long?
name? Yeah, Money Long. Yeah, Money Long. All right. Asake, Aria Starr, Ja Rule and Friends, a tribute to Irv Gotti. I'm glad they're doing that.
That's dope.
Cash
I like
Doll, Bobby Condors and Jabba featuring Mystica. And we got Jim Jones and Friends, Cash Cobain, 41, Kyle Ritchie, N. Carter, and Tata.
So I don't know a lot of those artists, but I'm gonna assume that they're New York artists. Am I right? Max, help me out. Is the bulk of some of those artists New York artists? Some of those
Let us
newer
know in
ones?
the chat, man, if the bulk of some of those artists are New York artists. I know that I don't know because again, when it comes to their lineups, it's usually about what's being played on the radio, and I don't really know what's being played on Hot 97 currently in 2025. I know I used to listen to Ebro in the morning a lot, and now when I listen to Ebro, it's more of an Apple Music thing. But I don't know what this says about New York and New York hip hop currently, and how they choose who is on these festival stages, or if maybe this is the time where Hot 97 needs to say, you know what, we're gonna pack in this whole Summer Jam thing and retool it and come back strong. Because I don't think that's a bad idea either. Sometimes you got to understand when the brand, especially when we talk about concerts, when the brand is at a point where it's not looking like it once did. And I'm not saying as far as the performers, but just the aura of it all. Because festivals are going right now. You know what I'm saying? Like festivals are popping. It's not a situation where concerts aren't popping. It's just the fact that Hot 97 doesn't have the lineup that gives the fans that level of anticipation that they once had. Now I could be wrong. I mean, the people in New York, what do y'all think about the Hot 97 lineup? I know we got some New York listeners out there. What do y'all think about the lineup? Is um this is what the people in New York are looking for?
Yeah, I'm not too hip to some of those artists. I do like that they're doing the Ja, the Irv Gotti tribute. That's
I
gonna
think
be
that's great.
cool. I'm kind of interested in when they say Jim Jones and Friends. I'm kind of interested in who's bringing out. Like, of course, it'd probably be Jewels or something, but I want to know who else. Because Jim is kind of tapped in with that young generation as well. So
He
I don't.
is.
I wonder who he's bringing. So I'll look forward to that. I see they have Glorilla. I see they have Money Long. I'm not too familiar with a lot of those other young artists that's on there. I like that hip hop, like New York has kind of been inclusive with like putting their artists on those stages with those radio shows, but I
Right.
don't really know the impact that the radio festivals kind of have. They have the iHeart Music Festival that is bigger than just hip hop, but I don't think even Power, the Jingle Jam or Jingle Ball, whatever they have, I don't know if that lineup was too strong either. So instead of it just being like, I don't really like that list for Hot 97, but then again, I don't know a lot of those younger artists to know if they hot or not, so I can't really have an opinion on that. But for me, on the outside looking in, I would be like, yeah, that list is not strong in my opinion. But like I said, a lot of the radio like festivals or whatever haven't seemed to be strong either from what I see. And the bigger growing hip hop festivals is kind of where it's at. Like your Rolling Louds, your Dreamville, your South by Southwest, your Lollapalooza, like there's another one that I just seen. It's been going on. I just was hip to it. It's outside of Chicago, and it's forgot the name of it, but I see Young Thug is gonna be an artist that's gonna be on there. He's gonna be headlining on the day, and I'm like, yo, that's big because that's like his first like real music out in a step
That's
foreign
what we
performance.
talking.
So I feel like a lot of the bigger ones I've grown throughout time because I remember the beginning stages of Rolling Loud and what it's got to now, or some of these other ones. So I feel like they got a good grasp on what it is. In radio, I think the things that hurt radio is there's a lot of people that don't want to go and perform at these platforms because how they're talked about on their actual shows on the radio stations too. So that kind of hurts too. That there's
But
some
I
people
get that.
that don't want to go and perform at Summer Jam because they probably have issues with a personality on Hot 97, or the same with Power and the Jingle Ball Fest or whatever they do on that. I really don't know the name of it, the Power Fest or whatever it is. Somebody hit me because I'm not from New York, but I see they talk about on radio and everything. But
Well,
like,
well, let me
so,
let me let me say something real quick. Let me ask you a question. Do you think what Method Man said last year, and I'll brief it up for the people who don't remember. Method Man and Redman, I think it was performing at last year's Hot 97 for, I think it was a Mr. C tribute or something like that.
mm,
It was some tribute. I'm sorry. It slips me right now. I think it was Mr. C. But anyway, and Method Man made the statement that, based on the audience movement and the youthfulness of the audience and the fact that they didn't really know too much about the performers, the lack of energy, he said he's not performing at Summer Jam anymore because that's just not his audience. Now, do you
yeah,
think that and I'm sure somebody like Method Man saying that many of the other veterans have probably felt this way for a long time and just didn't say anything, just did it anyway. Do you think that affects their ability to be able to get more seasoned performers or established performers with notoriety in their market?
yeah, for those radio festivals, yeah, because like it Summer Jam moments, even for us outside of New York, and we're looking at hip hop and what's going on, there's always great moments that happen on that Summer Jam stage where it's paying homage to other rappers before him or just bringing out a dope special guest. And I don't remember I think the last big moment I could think of is when Cardi brought out like those female artists. I know Remy
Right.
came out. I know there was some other, I don't know if it was Light or
Queen
Queen Latifah. I know she
Latifah
brought out
came out. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the last moment I could think of from a Summer Jam moment. But yeah, they're right. You know those kind of stages is time where some of them that have contributed to success of the station and gave great compelling interviews on that, there's time for them to kind of get that recognition, and it's not even being marketed to them in that same sense that, you know, you would think in New York you bring certain artists there, it will be loved there, and that
yeah,
hasn't been the case either. So it's like I really don't know what's going on with that, but I don't know how they're not looking at the festivals around them and
right.
kind of
The
going off that,
governor's
because I'm
ball's in
looking
New
at some of
York.
these festival lineups and they're amazing, man. Like that Dreamville lineup is pretty dope. The Lyrical Lemonade Summer Smash
Mhm.
festival, that's dope. The Rolling Louds lineups has been pretty dope, and it's just kind of like there's so many more festivals now that like there's a festival damn near everything like that resonates with you. They even have a podcast festival they do in Atlanta now, I believe, with Charlemagne, the Black Effect podcast stuff. And so
That's
there's a festival for everything now. But as far as like these radio festivals, I think they just lost its way. And I think that has to do not only with the politics of radio and some of those artists being pissed with some of the personalities up there and not participating, but also due to just radio being where it's at right now, you know. And I
Jermaine
feel like
Johnson with the super chat.
yeah,
My bad. Go ahead.
no, you good.
Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, I live in BK, Brooklyn. Shout out to Brooklyn. And say, I go to live shows all the time, but I have zero interest in attending Summer Jam. The crowd and most of the performers is not for me. And see, that was the question I was going to get to too. Like,
Yeah.
what's the actual demographic for Summer Jam, and why are radio festival demographics so drastically different than the demographics for these other festivals like a governor's ball and things of that nature? Like, why can't they, like you said, get in line with what these other festivals that aren't even connected to any airwaves are able to do?
Yeah, because I remember I used to try to go catch streams to watch this stuff live, you know,
Yeah,
like the
me
Summer Jam and
too.
stuff like that. I used to have to go try to find it on the internet or when they'll try to do a live stream to go see what's going on. I mean, there's so many big moments that's happened on that Summer Jam stage. And now I just don't know what's going on with the radio stuff. But you, like I said, you would think that you'll look at the other festivals around them and trying to see, hey, man, how can we revamp this? How can we make this relevant? Because say, all right, you may not be the premier station, but our thing could be the festival. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, let's at
This could
least
be our
promote that.
annual day to shine. Like, I've always had that issue with BET when it comes to the BET
Mhm.
Awards. Like, BET doesn't play any music. They play nothing but reruns, nothing but Tyler Perry stuff, whatever, Martin reruns, blah, blah, blah. All you have to work on all year is one award show. Knock that out the park. It's
Exactly.
not like you're doing programming every day like BET once was doing. I'm sure it's a staffing issue because with all those reruns going on, I'm sure their staff is abysmal. But at the same time, man, back in the day, they had to come up with programming damn near every day. It was 106 was every day. Rap City was every day. You know, they had like a countdown where what was her name? What's it? Nicole Tiffany hosted. It was every day. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Mhm.
had programming that they had to deal
I mean,
with
I
every
remember
day.
Tiffany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and now you don't have any of that. All you got to do is focus on one award show. And like you said, man, if these radio stations, the people really don't listen to like that anymore, whatever, fine. Focus on that festival. That's it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have
Yeah.
the brand, you have the name, and it just it plays into that notion that this is a payola game and you have to have certain people on stage, because I don't understand why, with all of the success of all these other festivals who have started well after you, that you have fallen so far behind.
Yeah. That New York Summer Jam should look like that versus between Lots and Dipset. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? If anything,
it could
it
be a
should be like
mix.
a celebration,
Yeah,
bro. Like bridging the gap between young and old. And I feel like I guess they try to do that when you bring people like Jim Jones on there. And I'm pretty sure, you know, people bring out special guests and you're doing the Irv Gotti tribute or whatnot. But these festivals are like that's where you can bridge the gap for real. Like I look at something like the Roots Picnic, and
Yeah,
that
that's a good one.
demographic is like kind of broader because you get certain things. But I look at a Rolling Loud, and I've seen how it's progressively just got younger.
Yeah,
And then I look at stuff like Dreamville. It's like I said, there's a festival for everything right now. There's festivals I never even heard of that are coming up and are being started or whatever. Like I've been to Lovers and Friends the last 2 years. Well, last year it got canceled. I was on the
yeah.
strip and got the message right beforehand that they canceled it because of a
That was so
windstorm.
messed
Yeah, they
up.
refunded me my money, but hey, man, it is what it is. But I went the year beforehand, and Lovers and Friends, I heard the first year wasn't that great as far as organization and how hot it was out there. But the experience I had that second year was amazing. You know, the weather was on point. Everybody
Yeah.
was damn near on time. They got full on performances. Like it was great. I think they used to have a festival in Vegas called A Day in Vegas. I think they canceled it the last year they were supposed to have it or whatever. Like I said, I seen Rolling Loud grow from not only being in Miami, but now it's in California, now it's in New York, and now they're international with it now. So like there is a festival for everything, and I've seen a lot of dope things happen on stage. Like I was at the Rolling Loud when the baby said what he said on stage that
Were
basically
you?
got canceled. I was there. I left a little bit
Oh,
early, so I didn't. Yeah.
stop. We gotta go back. What
Yeah.
was that experience like? And in that moment, did you think that that was
So,
gonna become a thing, or did that just get overblown?
so I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I missed it at that point. Like when
Okay.
he got on there and he did that, I actually missed when he came out and did that. I actually cut out early because I was like, I was kind of tired of the Rolling Loud crowd. I was there like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, the stupidity, like it's gotten kind of young out there. But I seen a lot of dope stuff. Um, there's so many moments, like even from Rolling Loud that I seen. I seen when I was at the Rolling Loud when Meek first got out. When he first got out of
Mm,
prison. It's on my IG. When Meek first got out, he was a special guest. They did not have him on the ticket at all. We did not know he was gonna come there. And the lights, for Rolling Loud, it went from just being 3 stages, and now it's like 4 or 5 stages. So they have like 3 main stages, and they'll have like little sub stages or whatever for like other artists. And there's an app, and you can literally go to the times when everybody goes on and whatever. So it's like you kind of maneuvering and picking who you want to see best. But I was there. I went to the Rolling Loud when the baby said what he said there. I missed it when he actually said what he said, but I was there for the beginning of the set. Um, but I also got to see like when Meek first got out and he did his big performance. I also got to see when Khaled brought out Diddy. I got to see
mm.
when yeah, I got to see when Travis Scott brought out the Migos and they dissed Joe Budden. Like I got to see these type things. There's big moments from these festivals that happen, and really we used to look for those big moments with these radio festivals at Summer Jam screen. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now I'm seeing these big moments happening on other festivals. It's kind of like, man, what's going on, man? Like it
I
was
feel
one
like,
thing, the
I
Summer
feel
Jam
like
festival.
I think Summer Jam specifically because I do feel like Hot 97 Summer Jam is probably the most famous radio festival in hip hop. I think that's fair to
Yeah.
say, right? I think for them, they need to pack it up and figure out how they could get to the level of these other festivals and then come back strong. Was anybody in the chat? Because I know we got New York people in the building. Anybody in
Yeah.
the chat? Were y'all in attendance when Jay Z took the Summer Jam Festival stage and went at Prodigy and Nas? I mean, was anybody there live to actually see that?
He brought
I
out
remember
Michael Jackson on that same set.
I was at Birthday Bash, 1079's Birthday Bash here in
Mhm.
Atlanta when when Ti was supposed to be locked up and he came out and he was dissing Flip. That was crazy. It was a pinnacle, a pivotal moment, and probably the most heightened moment in that whole back and forth. I thought it was. I mean, again, man, Ti was definitely a showman, and I know people are going to appreciate to that level now. But yeah, when he came out, with the whole Leprechaun Boots freestyle or whatever from the Down with the King, people went crazy. Now, I hate that Flip was on the other end of that, but those are those memorable moments in
Mhm.
hip hop and in the battle and the stage, and it's just even when it's unified moments, like when Jay Z and Nas got together at the "I Declare War" thing, like you know what I'm saying? Like big moments that live performances can bring and can give. And the audience also has to be diverse enough to be able to appreciate it. I would hate for Ja Rule to hit the stage and Ashanti too, and hit the stage to do a tribute to Herb, and the audience not appreciate what they're delivering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I hope that's not what goes viral. I hope that like they get the love they're supposed to do for that, because I actually think that's a pretty good idea. For
Yeah,
them to do that, because all of them coming together, you have Nas, Ashanti, Lloyd, like this is a time for like the Murder Inc. Like they had the hits. Like this is a good time
yeah,
to represent them. And if they bring any other special guests that like also had Dylan's with making music with Irv, there was one point in time that Nas did records with them. There was a point in time where, even if you want to go further back, the Def Jam stuff,
yeah.
what if Jay was to come out and do some records off, Reasonable Doubt? I don't see it happening, but what if that was to happen? He was at the funeral, so maybe.
I think
So it's
it's
like,
very
I don't know. It's time for
yeah.
these
You're
type of
right.
moments,
I think what Method Man said last year, it just rings where it's like that's just not my crowd anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so I think many of the performers, even if they wanted to go out there and do that, they would understand, like, yeah, that Summer Jam crowd's not my crowd. And I think that Hot 97 is their job at this point to find a way to make that crowd look like the other hip hop festival crowds, where it's diverse in that way. I don't know how they got to the point where their crowd is so just one sided. Like it's just very minimal. They have a very minimal crowd, and it's not just the people they put on the bill. I don't know. I don't know. Because it's hard for me to even believe that the young people who are there even listen to the radio like that. You got so many options. I feel like young people are the last people listening to the radio.
Yeah, young people are not checking the radio for new music.
So
They
it's
might,
like,
they
why
might
is
check
their audience so young?
Yeah, they might check the Breakfast Club for interviews and stuff. Like, I feel like if the Breakfast Club go away, radio, like the older people, they still listen to morning radio on the way to work. They'll still listen to Steve Harvey Morning Show or Ricky Smiley
Yeah,
Show or things of that nature. Those are what replace things like, Doug Banks in the morning and
right.
Tom Joyner and stuff. So that's in the realm
That's
of what
old
they
school.
are. But when you take away like the Breakfast Club, I think like radio is obsolete now. It's just like nobody's gonna be checking for radio no more, unfortunately. Um, but that's just where we are, man. Like that's just where we are. And these festivals have capitalized and brought big moments that we talk about every day now. And when the music performances happen, there's so many big moments that come about. And I just, unfortunately, with the thing on radio, I think what the bad rap is on that is the politics and the inner workings. I think Summer Jam kind of start going down a little bit when people start shifting over to Power with the Breakfast Club and Angie Martinez going over there to Power. And I just think that's when kind of people pick sides, and I think that's where it's kind of start going downhill from that. But I don't really know what it's looking like over there as a support for Summer Jam in New York. That's why I want to know from real New Yorkers, like, is there excitement over Summer Jam? Are you guys anticipating it, or what is it that you guys would like to see better? Because I seen the lineup and I'm like, man, I don't know who these younger artists are. I assume that they're New York artists, but like
Hmm.
I don't see a strong lineup. But there's some highlights there, so it could be some big moments. Like I said, there could be a big moment that come out of that Herb tribute. There could be big
I
moments that
hope
come out
so.
of the Jim Jones tribute with everything that's going on around him. Like there's some big moments that could happen. So I'm not gonna doubt them too bad, but on paper, it doesn't look like the strongest, but these other festivals have got it right. It brings you excitement when you look at the lineups. Like I said, I was looking at that one festival that's outside like Chicago that
Hmm.
they do. It's called the Lyrical Lemonade Summer Smash, and I'm seeing that lineup, and the first thing that stood out to me is, oh shit, they have Young Thug as a headliner. So it has anticipation. It's kind of like when they released that Rolling Loud schedule, like when I was back going on like the lineups, we were like, oh shit, Travis Scott the headliner, oh shit, Rocky's the headliner, we don't have a tribute where they're bringing out so and so, and then the special guest behind it. It was so much excitement I went into this stuff, and I don't know if we'll get that back with radio festivals again, or if that's a thing that's a goal. But further and further, I kind of see that they might stop doing them after a while. I think once the anticipation for it goes down, the staples that we once know and love, it's kind of like fades away a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing, man. It's like um the advertisers and the fans as well, like they're going to dictate if these things continue to go on a large scale, and if they continue to go down, it's like, yeah, they're going to go away. It just is what it is. Now, speaking of Dreamville, that festival's coming
Mhm.
up. What's that lineup looking like? Let me pull up the Dreamville lineup.
Oh, that lineup's pretty good.
Yeah, that lineup's pretty good. um and again, man, Dreamville, how long has Dreamville been around?
That I don't know. It has to be like 5 or 6 years though.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a crazy long time, and the
Yeah,
fact
I don't
that
think it's crazy.
fairly new festivals have been able to gain a momentum and better lineups than festivals that have been around almost 30 years is wild. So
So I
yeah,
have it brought up right now. Or you got it too?
Dreamville has, I got it up too. We got
Okay.
Lil Wayne, Hot Boys and Big Timers. We got Juvenile Turk, BG, Manny Fresh, Birdman, 21 Savage, Party Next Door, Ludacris, Ari Lennox, Chief Keef, Keisha Cole, celebrating 20 years of The Way It Is. We got Boss, we got Young Nudie, Absol, Luke, Omen, Kai Cash, excuse me, and Nico Brim, J. Cole, Erica Badu, Tim's, Glorilla, JID,
JID.
Wale, Coco Jones, Big X the Plug, Earth Gang. I love this lineup.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
this lineup.
yeah, Cos, and IKEA. I love this
Yeah,
lineup.
I like this
And
lineup for
see,
real.
again, I feel like a lineup like that, I just don't understand how, whatever. But anyway, I think they give you pretty much everything you need. I love the fact that Wayne, Hot Boys, and the Big Timers are, celebrating Cash Money and touring with it. Have you been able to catch any of their live performances or what this?
I watched the actual original reunion that they did on Amazon on that
Mhm.
they had through Amazon, and that was kind of dope. There was some moments that was on there that I like versus others, on his solo set. I feel like his second half of his solo set was doper than the first one because he went into a lot of his mixtape stuff, and then like just
Mhm.
seeing the Hot Boys reunion and coming back, that was really dope. For me because I grew up on that, so that was dope. But I like this.
What
I like.
was your favorite? What was your favorite Cash Money album from that era?
Oh, it was definitely Juvie. It was
Fun, yeah,
Juvie. It was
yeah,
man. I like all Juvie's albums pretty much, but that 400 Degrees, and then even Project English was my shit, and then even Juvie the Great was dope. I mean that was later on. The Cash Money
yeah.
breakup that happened. He
Juvenile's
just
a
came back
very
with it.
underrated
But,
storyteller for
yeah,
sure.
but
Juvenile's a very underrated story.
Juvie albums was dope. BG Chopper City in the Ghetto, like um Wayne. I remember having Lights Out. I remember The Block Is Hot.
Yeah,
Like I remember those, but this is like that was a different Wayne. Versus like what we got on the card or whatever. But the guy for me then was Juvie and BG for me. But I
yeah.
was really listening to Juvie more so than anybody else. So that's what did it for
Juvenile
me.
had
And
it
that,
all, man. He could do it all. He could make the hits.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like his feature game was tough. He was a great storytelling, you know what I'm saying, MC. I feel like, High is one of the most brilliant records we've ever seen in
Yeah.
hip hop. It's so original. Like it's one of those things where what made you think to actually make this song in this way and execute in this way? Like and then the hook, man, you was a paper chaser. You got your block on fire, remaining the G until the moment you expire. You know what it is to make nothing out of something. You handle your biz. You're gonna be crying and suffering. I mean, in between that and a song like Back That Ass Up that we're gonna hear for the rest of our lives,
Yeah,
we
man,
got
that's a
to
Negro
give
spiritual.
Juvenile his flowers. Huh? What's that?
It's a new Negro spiritual, man. You gotta throw that Knuck and Be Buck in there. Like those are songs. It's like hearing going to a party and hearing Montel Jordan. This is how we do it. There's certain
Yeah.
songs They're just gonna be like, you know what the reaction's gonna be every time you hear them shits, and that's
We're gonna
one.
hear those songs forever. Like we're literally gonna hear "Back That Ass Up" for the rest of our lives. Like there's never gonna be a point where that song is not getting played.
And the
That's
reaction will always be the same.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And what? Back That Ass Up is that's what, 99, 98? It was technically 98. So we're 27 years in. And that song really ain't lost steam for sure.
Yep.
It's amazing. And we got to give
Juvie had
Juvenile
the
credit.
albums. Juvie had
Um,
the albums, definitely.
my favorite song back then on that album, I think High's the best song. I think that Back That Ass Up is the song. But Rich Niggas was my favorite song on 400 Degrees back then. I thought that beat was so crazy. And then how Wayne came in, and then you know what I'm saying, the beat change at the end, like
Yeah.
I thought Manny Fresh was just everything in that moment, man. Like when the snares is changing scales and the drums is going down, it was phenomenal stuff, man.
You know, and I know we give Dre a lot of credit for how many people he produced, coming from NWA, and then what he did with Death Row, and we give producers that kind of produce for a whole clique, we give them credit, but Manny Fresh definitely deserves that credit for him producing for all those artists on Cash Money at that time, because it was just fire for all of them at that point. You know, he was producing for all of them. So Manny Fresh definitely deserved credit for that. And I don't like the way they did him versus Scott Storch, because they made it look real one-sided when they shouldn't have been in those same rooms doing that with each other.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's a
don't even
lot of
think that was a good matchup.
him just playing keys on stuff. But Manny, shout out to Manny. Manny deserves
I agree
credit.
with that.
Yeah.
100%. I think that the type of producer that Scott Storch is, and the type of producer that Manny Fresh is, that just wasn't a good matchup for Manny Fresh, because like you said, he didn't have that kind of help. It wasn't a collective producing when it came from Manny Fresh. Like Manny Fresh literally produced all of the Hot Boys stuff, the Juvenile stuff, the Big Timer stuff, the Wayne stuff, the Turk stuff when it came, the BG stuff. He was literally the sound of Cash Money. I don't think there was ever a producer that had that much weight on him in that moment, like ever. I mean, you could say Molly Mall to a certain extent. Somebody could say RZA, I guess, but RZA had mathematics over there, and he had a couple of other producers over there. There was no other producer in Cash Money. This nigga Manny was producing all of these albums himself, and they were coming out so quick too. And it was like, yeah, they were just cranking them out. Because when Juvenile came, it was like, okay, well, BG's coming. And you had 2 Big Timer albums. Boom. Then Guerrilla Warfare from the Hot Boys came, and it was like he's making all of this stuff. And we always felt like they burnt Manny Fresh out, and anybody would get out when and he didn't sample too tough.
But when we talk producers, he never comes up. Like he never gets when they talk about top producers, whatever, he never gets the credit. And I don't know if it's just due to that Cash Money content from back then, and people are not taking it serious as lyricism or whatever. But Manny Fresh, man, he definitely needs to get credit as a producer for what he was doing for the whole Cash Money. You know what I'm saying? Even he was producing Big Timers albums with him as an artist. You know what I'm saying? Like he definitely deserves the credit for what he offered and did as a producer. And I remember our past conversation, we talking about like, what is it? Is it the songs or is it albums? This is where I gotta say we gotta talk about Manny Fresh, because he was a guy that came with the albums.
I mean, he's in a different conversation because, like you said, he had to come with the albums and the singles. And so he had to do a bit of both, because Cash Money kind of ran on the singles, but he had to do the albums too. Like he had the responsibility of having to do both.
Yep. And not to mention, even after the whole Cash Money thing, he came back and gave Wayne another hit to reintroduce him to the game once again. Because we heard Wayne before Hot Boys Wayne, Young Wayne, but when he came back, the resurgence of Wayne, you have Cash, the Carter, he gives you Go DJ.
You're right.
Trying to put him in the conversation. Like,
Well,
you
the
know,
thing is,
so it's
I
like,
will say this, and to your point about us talking about all-time producers, I think what hurts Manny in that conversation is the fact that most of his work in that time, if not all of his work at that time, was just with Cash Money. And I wish that, I mean, I know after Cash Money was done, he did Top Back for Tip and stuff like that, and
yeah, I think he did do it for Tip
Take
too. I
Five.
think.
Yeah, if I think if he could have
Yeah.
been doing a lot of that kind of stuff while Cash Money was rolling, and we could have heard what Manny's sauce sounded like with, you know what I'm saying, other artists of that time, I think that that conversation might be a little bit different. But again, RZA gets in that conversation by just really working with Wu-Tang. And that was the kind of pushback that I would always give as a RZA fan myself in comparison to RZA and other producers, is the fact that he just pretty much, his greatest work, if not a bulk of his work, was in the Clan itself. But the one thing I will give the Clan is that they were all so different. Producing for Old Dirty Bastard is way different than producing for Ghostface, which is different than producing for Method Man, which is different than producing for Jizza. And I think one could say that the Cash Money guys were in a similar bag, and so they could question Manny's versatility in production in that era. And I think that's the only thing that really holds Manny back from those conversations. But he has records, he has albums and singles that clearly stand the test of time.
Yep, for
Definitely
himself
better
and
than this.
others. Because yeah, for himself and others. Because if you hear "Still Fly" from Big Timers, who's the one to
Shit.
produce that? You know what I'm saying? Like, he produced not only hits from himself as a duo group with Birdman, but like I said, for all the rest of those artists. And I think he even came with a solo like later on where he had Real
I love
Big. You know
Real
what I'm
Big.
saying?
Real
Yeah,
Big was
so it's like,
crazy.
yep. So it's like
you
Manny,
know,
Manny, he deserves that credit.
one of my favorite Manny beats, it's hard to, just single it down, but one of my favorite Manny fresh produced beats is Big Ballin' from the Big Timers. I love that record, man. That
Mm-hmm.
shit is
That made me
crazy.
think about baller blocking.
That shit is crazy. I remember
Yeah.
Greg Street used to play that, and I used to be like, man, what is this? Like, 'cause this was early. This was around the time where High was out or before it, because he was always, he knew those guys. But yeah, so he was playing that, man. Big Ballin' was crazy. That record, and I always love BG's Cash Money as an Army. That beat is crazy.
That's my shit. Yeah.
Like, Manny has some shit, man. He is definitely understated and underrated, man. And we got to give Manny his flowers. We could do a whole breakdown of Manny Fresh's catalog. I think we should, man, because somebody got to do it.
Yeah, man. He's
Uh,
definitely that guy.
we wanted to keep the what ifs going from last week. Now, what were some what ifs that we missed?
Oh man, it was
And
so many. Because do you want to go with one of some categories? I feel like we got to categorize this, and we had a lot of
we'll go
feedback.
ahead.
We got a lot of stuff. We got to categorize it. Like, let's go with what ifs that like kind of changed hip hop. Period. Like, things that if this didn't happen, what would it have happened? And I know you mentioned one in particular. I want you to say it. I don't want to say what you said. I want you to say
Oh,
it as one of your
like
one.
moments that totally changed everything.
Yeah,
Well, you look at the Marvel movies, you look at the Marvel series, and any movies where you could affect time travel and go back and change something. And I guess the biggest thing when it comes to the Avenger movies would be, on Endgame, when they had to go back and change what happened when Thanos with the snap or whatever.
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that moment in hip hop, to me, is the Quad Studio moment. I think
Mm.
that moment where Tupac was robbed in the lobby of Quad Studio in New York City, where Biggie and Puff were upstairs recording. I think that's the moment that changed everything in hip hop. It started a domino effect that continued on. I don't know if Pac ends up on death row if that didn't happen in that way. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that night in Vegas when Pac was murdered, it happens in that same way. I don't know if Big would still be here, and then that just opens up a whole plethora of things that we don't know about if those two guys survive or if those guys are collaborating together at any given point. In the midst of all of these things, I don't know. I think that if Quad Studio doesn't happen, there's a lot of different things that happen, and it's crazy when you could deduce hip hop history to one 5-10 minute event or however long that was.
Yeah,
That is
facts.
crazy to think. If somebody could have stopped that, intervened in that, or just say, you know what, we're not doing that, things are different.
I agree. It's just like it makes me wonder, like I wonder what it would have been if Easy E didn't pass away.
Mm.
Because there's always rumblings that like the fellas was talking once again. It was kind of like on better terms, and because if you really notice through that beef with them, they threw their disses or whatever, but it was kind of after they got over that, it was like Ruthless and them, they're still doing their thing. Dre was doing his thing with Death Row, and then it's like, you know, Easy was still signing artists. He had JJ Fad. He still had what was BG
Black Eyed
Knockout and
Peas,
Twister.
Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had all of them. You had Bone Thugs and Harmony. You still had MC Ren over there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I think it's just like I really wonder what would have happened on the business side for Easy and what music would have came or what artists would have came under him and how that would have happened.
It's so loaded when it comes to Easy,
Mhm.
right? Because Easy famously gets on Arsenio Hall's show and is asked about the Dr. Dre disses and all that. And he's like, he could diss me all he wants because he's still under contract. Every time he's making music, I'm getting paid from that. That's why they say, Dre Day's Easy's payday. And I would wonder if how factual that is, right? Or if that was just something to say in the midst of the beef, or B, how long that goes on, because Dre doesn't drop a lot of albums, right? Does that duration run out in 2001? Is that something that gets cleared up if those guys, clear up their discrepancies, or does that continue on? And again, that was another thing with Death Row too. Like that was the first conflict that kind of made Death Row the antagonizing force that it was. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what made Death Row, that whole Dre and Easy thing, because that was their adversaries. They didn't have an adversary if it wasn't for E. So if
Yeah.
that clears up and they're cool and he lives on and they, clear this up, what does that do for Death Row? What does that do if, Dr. Dre, when Dr. Dre leaves Death Row and Easy E is there alive and he's putting out hits with Bone Thugs and Harmony and stuff? What does that look like? Do they collaborate at that point? I don't know. Easy
Yeah.
E is a huge missing link when it comes to all of this. Like him not being here, not only as an individual talent himself, but as a talent scout, if you will. Like Easy E pretty much found Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Will I Am. I think Will I Am's a genius as well. Bone Thugs and Harmony, like he was pretty great at finding
He's building a
talent.
roster.
And it would have been amazing to see who he would have been able to find moving forward as well.
Yeah. And so it's
We don't
like,
talk enough about him.
yeah. So it's like I look at that. These are things that I say that's big in music. Let me give you some newer stuff, like a
Okay.
newer what if, because I know we talk about the historic stuff. We can get to it, but I wonder what Drake's career would have looked like versus everybody who passed on signing on him. We've seen that. We've heard
Mm.
Jim Jones say he passed on signing Drake. We've heard Akon say he passed on signing Drake. Even T.I. Wayne was the guy who gave him the opportunity. I wonder what it would have looked like for Drake if he would have signed to some of those other individuals that said they once heard him and passed upon him, or didn't have the time for it or whatever. I wonder how that would have went, for his
Yeah.
career, would he still be the same guy that we look at today, or has had such a successful career if he would have signed to the likes of a Jim Jones, Akon, or a Ti? Now we know Akon has a track record with Lady Gaga and and T Pain, but what does it look like for Jim? Because it's not like Jim never had artists before. What it would look like with Drake under Jim? What would it look like for Ti? A lot of artists haven't really flourished under Ti. You know what I'm saying? Dro, he was that guy. He was a star, but we know Dro, he was battling his own stuff and he had his own, thing going. But we look at Young Lay was on Grand Hustle. There was even floating around when Meek was around the camp. You could actually see Meek in one of the old videos of Ti.
He had Meek first. No,
Yeah,
T.I. had Meek
yeah.
first.
You can see it. Meek was in the old videos. I think the "What's Up, What's Happening" video. When he was dissing
Shawty Lo, yeah.
Shawty Low. I
Shawty Lo.
think Meek is in that video. Like him, Lil Duval.
Yeah.
I think Meek is in that video. So, but he had PSC. He got B.O.B. over there. From my city, he had Tokyo Jets. But like more so, Alpha Mega was over there. We know what happened with that. But for the most part, like I think Travis Scott was around Grand Hustle too. Like
Travis Scott was as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah,
I just
roster,
wonder.
man.
Yeah,
Iggy
but
is
none of
Iggy,
them.
if you want to count
Iggy,
that.
but like there's not a lot of artists that really pop from there. They actually pop being in other things. So I wonder what that would have looked like for Drake over there or whatever. So that's one of those things that I say a what if on too.
Well,
Looking
I
at
think
his
that's
career or
a good
whatever.
question. And I want to give Wayne his credit. It takes a very special artist to allow an artist under you, per se, an artist that you signed or co-signed or whatever, to get bigger than you. And I think that Wayne never at any point attempted to stunt Drake's growth. I think he always was like, yeah, do your thing. Because I think that in hip hop, it's such a competitive space that the top guy always wants to be the top guy. And even when that comes to people that they sign, and it might not be intentional, it could be one of those things that, they unintentionally are competing against their own artists, right? But I think it takes a very special artist to say, you know what, I'm gonna really get behind this person's career and let them do it. And it's not, I'm not gonna get in your way. And Wayne did that twice when it came to Nicki and Drake. And I don't think that anybody outside of Akon, I would say, would have given Drake that space to be as big as Drake has become. I don't know if the same thing would have worked with Akon and Drake, but who knows, man? Because Akon, he put T-Pain and Lady Gaga on, so I can't underestimate.
He had the resources for him, and he just let them do their thing, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, but when it comes to rap artists, when they put people on or sign artists, it's almost like you'll never get bigger than the other guy, and it's unfortunate, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is a rare case with Wayne.
Yeah, and Wayne's in a rare space with that. Yeah. Wayne let his artists fly, and yeah, and I do think that when Wayne got locked up that for that year for that gun possession in New York, that was Drake's time to just go out there and hold it down, and he did that. And he always said, Wayne's name while he was doing it. But Wayne's definitely in a special place. But again, I think that Wayne also saw that when it came to how he was raised in Cash Money and how Birdman let, those guys fly. Wayne waited his turn too, because like you said earlier, Juvenile was the guy. Juvenile put Cash Money on the map. 400 Degrees put Cash Money on the map. And Wayne never was out there, quote unquote, competing with Juvie. And when it came Wayne's time, he stepped up and he put Cash Money on his back. And they've been flowing ever since. And I got to give Wayne credit, man. He don't get enough credit for that, man. Wayne worked his ass off to keep Cash Money afloat. And then when it came time for them to get the next generation of Cash Money, he didn't let anybody, he didn't stand in anybody's way.
No, because we know of the three, mostly two that people will like to say Wayne and Nicki, but let's not forget Tyga has had his time on charts. Tyga was under that too. And, he had other artists that wasn't as successful, but for the most part, he already was entering a whole new generation, ushering a whole new generation in that he wanted to succeed. You know, you know, he
Somebody
did the
said,
Young
hold
Money
on, hold on, hold on,
compilation.
hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Not to cut you off. Somebody said
No,
Eminem got bigger than Dr. Dre, and same with Snoop. Dr. Dre is a producer.
yeah,
Dr. Dre is not an artist. It's a producer's job to actually put their artists on and produce for them. I don't think that from an artist standpoint, Dr. Dre was ever competing with, Eminem or Snoop. I mean, Dr. Dre has what? How many albums as a rapper? Like two and a half. Well, you know what? If we count the Aftermath album, that's a collaboration. Yeah, Dr. Dre's not like an artist like that. He's a producer first, so he's a little different. Wayne's not a producer. Wayne doesn't make beats for his artists.
while we're on Dr. Dre, pause. I would like to say this. What if the Firm album, it did numbers, people anticipated it, but essentially hip hop considers it a flop. What if the love and this thing would have been so amazing, the Firm would have really blew as a group? Would we have got 2001 later? Or what the efforts would have been put towards Eminem? Because we know,
That's
like,
interesting.
yeah, I thought about
That's
that.
interesting. Shout out to the Glove too, because I know he produced on, him and Dr. Dre produced the Firm. I think the Firm was one of those moments where they were trying something new. Like this, the first like real compilation where you have different labels, different brands, different everything, like all on one album. One of the things the Glove said about that album, he said there were too many logos on that CD. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of a time when all of that was happening. And I do think that Dr. Dre made a conscious effort to say, yo, I'm from the West Coast, this Pac and Big thing happened. I'm gonna reach out to who I think is the best on the East Coast, which is Nas. And I mean, he was the first East Coast rapper to rhyme over West Coast production on It Was Written, I believe, because Dr. Dre and Nas collaborating, that was a big deal. And that hadn't happened to that level at that time. But saying to answer your question, saying all that to say, yeah, I do think if that would have succeeded, Dr. Dre may have kept going in that lane of working with Nas and probably other East Coast artists and not feel the need to come back home as quickly as he did on 2001. Because
Yeah,
2001 was about, okay, something's missing. I got to get people to feeling back. You know what I mean? And if all of that stuff was continuously evolving and succeeding at that level, then there might not have been that need to take it back to the core collective of Snoop,
yeah,
Corrupt, Nate Dogg. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but
It was.
there may have been a meshing of all those worlds, though.
Yeah, because I look at it and I was like, it made me. You know what made me think about this? I was listening to I was in the car and on my playlist, I forgot about Drake came on. I remember the line where he say, "Oh, the firm flop. Y'all the reason that Dre ain't getting no sleep." So it kind of feels like
Mhm.
the feedback he was getting off that it kind of lit a fire under him, and he went hard for Eminem. And then he went hard for
Yeah,
like 2001 or whatever. I just really wonder if the flop would, I mean, if the firm would have been received well and it would have been the hottest thing, whatever what we have gotten 2001, what the efforts been towards Eminem to keep those signs, like what would that have looked like for the trajectory of Aftermath? Will we have got a 50 later on as a branch of that? I just really wonder how that would have been.
there may
And
have been
Dre's his
conversations.
career.
There may have been conversations of a Nas being a part of an Aftermath or a AZ being a
Mhm.
part of an Aftermath. I don't know, or them having some um collective deal, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody had their brands on that CD. Like if you look at the back of the Firm CD, everybody's logos on there, and so maybe there was a plan for that possibly to be the future. But yeah,
Yeah, I look at certain
things
things like,
happen the way they need to happen, right?
yeah, there's so many what ifs, man. Like there's obvious what ifs.
There was another one. Go ahead. I got some in my notes.
Oh, get to it.
No, no, no. Go ahead. I'm looking for them
Okay.
right now. I'm pulling
I
up.
I was gonna say there's so many what ifs. Like there's obvious what ifs. Like people gonna say, what if Pac and Big didn't get killed? You know, they're gonna say, what if the music haven't been lost in the for the Wu-Tang stuff in the flood? I mean, those are great ones. But I was really when we were talking about it last week, I was like, I'm wondering like other what ifs that just change the trajectory of what we got as far as big moments in hip hop and the big artists that came from that. Like we talked about like um just now with the Drake thing, whatever would have happened because what came from that. We know we got 2001, the rise of Eminem and the stuff like that, but or Easy E. Like, what if that would happen? Like, I started looking into that. Like, what are the big moments that would happen? Like, what if Aaliyah wouldn't have passed? Right? Because I'm looking at where Dame is at right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, Jay got B, and we know they had the stuff where it's talking where Dame always say Jay tried to take his girl, blah, blah, blah. I really wonder if Aaliyah was still alive, how better would that have made Dame, and what that would have did for her as an artist versus
Well,
possibly, Destiny's Child was out around that time. There's literally a picture with Beyonce and Aaliyah and whatever. So, but I wonder what the Beyonce that we know now, because they were pushing her towards solo, but with the Beyonce as an icon now, still been that as Aaliyah, you know,
I
going.
think
And
Beyonce's career would be the same. I'm of the mindset that
I
I
kind
mean,
of feel the same way. I kind of feel the same way because they were already kind of launching her and putting her in the
yeah,
forefront already around that time. Because what Aaliyah died, what 2000? Is it 2001?
2001. Yep.
So yeah, they're already going in that route. But I'm looking at Aaliyah was in movies beforehand. I just more so. It's not more so about the star power of B. It's a question that it could come up. It's a fair question to ask, but it's more so
Yeah,
what would
people
that
ask
have
me
done
all
for Dame? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. That would have. I will say this: with Rockefeller, the breakup or the sale or whatever, that would have given Dame a music or entertainment lane to still stay in. Like, let's look at it like this: for the people who remember where Diana Ross and Berry Gordy's careers went when Motown moved to LA and Barry wanted to do more in film. He was able to get make these films around Diana Ross as the star, like The Wiz, Cleopatra, things like that. And I feel like that would have given Dame that level of motivation to say, hey, well, Jay is pretty much managing Beyonce's solo career, which is kind of what it was. And I'm gonna do the same thing, for Aaliyah. And she's a dope actress, still do the music if she wants, but I'm gonna put my focuses over here because we already saw that Dame was doing film as well. And that
Mhm.
probably would have been more motivation to get into that arena a little bit more. I think the music thing was kind of waning off for both of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I really wonder. I
I
was
had
like,
one. Speaking of Dr. Dre, though, what if Dr. Dre never left Death Row? What does that look like? Because Dr. Dre is, in my opinion, I feel like, yeah, Dr. Dre leaving Death Row was a fatal blow, and Tupac's death was the finishing move, if you will. But I feel like Death Row would have, or could have, or at least would have tried to sustain if Dr. Dre would have stayed.
I think we would have got more classic albums out of Death Row, but we all know Death Row went downhill when Pac died. So yeah,
But it would have been Snoop and Dre again. So the Dog Father would now have Dr. Dre. What does that look like for the Dog Father?
it would have been a better sophomore album, hands down.
That's it. Just
No,
a
it would
better.
have been a better sophomore album, because I think
Yeah.
Snoop was already kind of like a star at that point, and I don't know what the anticipation for that second album was.
Oh,
I
it was
don't know. I
huge.
was a kid, so
It
I
was
don't
huge.
know. Was there anticipation for that second album? Like, what was it?
Oh
Was the
yeah,
hype there?
it
Were they
was. It
considering
was
that a
huge.
disappointment at the time?
Yes, it was huge disappointment.
Like, was that the
The
talk though?
sound of
Like,
Death
was that
Row
what
was.
people were saying?
When did? Yeah, that's what people were saying because he had
Okay.
Snoop's upside your head. And yeah, it just wasn't. Nah. When specifically did Dr. Dre leave Death Row? Was it because 96? It's clearly 96, right? All Eyes on Me is at the top part of the year. Machiavelli is at the back end of the year. It was released posthumously when Pac was dead. But again, we here on Toss It Up, no more Dre Day or Riverdurce. So this happens probably around, without looking this up, around the summer of '96. Dr. Dre leaves, and
Yeah,
Machiavelli is like the last notable Death Row album with no Dr. Dre input. So yeah, um, I think if he stays, all of that looks different. Huh? It's interesting.
yeah, man. It's a lot of what ifs. I mean, we could do multiple shows about the what ifs,
What
man.
if
This is
Outkast never went on a hiatus?
you said what now?
What if Outkast never went on a hiatus? I'll call it a hiatus, but we can
And
call it what it
they
is.
went out on a peak too, which is weird. It's like kind of like Mace. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if Mace what would that Mace stuff would have materialized to? You know, because Double Up, when you go back, Double Up was actually not a bad album.
Really? I haven't listened to Double Up in a long time, and I know I was talking about the Source magazine and their rating systems earlier, but I remember when the Source gave Mace 2.5 mics for Double Up.
It
I
wasn't
don't even think I
because
ever gave the album a fair chance after that.
you know why? It didn't have the same push or it didn't have the same records as a Harlem World. But really,
Yeah.
Double Up wasn't as bad to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like whether that or not, Mace still kind of went out in his prime. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what if that wouldn't have happened? What we would have got out of Mace? You know, what would the trajectory of that would have been as far as his lane or where it would go? Like, what would Mace would have looked like outside of that? You know, once that shiny suit era thing kind of died down, like what would have been like the next move for Mace? That's a career that I'm like, damn, what if what would have happened with Mace? You know, in that realm, you know.
Darren, shout out to Darren Harris. He said it happened March of '96. Dr.
Okay.
Dre leaves Death Row, March of '96. That is a big moment. We talk about moments that changed hip hop forever. Dr. Dre's decision to leave, honestly, Ice Cube's decision to leave NWA, and ultimately, Dr. Dre's decision to leave NWA and start Death Row. Those are all important game-changing moments, but I feel like the biggest game-changing moment as it pertains to Dr. Dre is his decision to leave Death Row. I've never heard anybody ask Snoop about that. I've seen Snoop do so many interviews, and maybe they did back in that moment, but like in recent times, I've never heard anybody ask, how Snoop felt when Dr. Dre made that decision, because you got to feel like, man, he's the one that's affected the most by this. Period.
Yeah.
Because Pac could work,
even
Pac's proven that he can work with others.
yeah, man, you going to No Limit and you was rhyming over stuff they was doing. Like those albums on No Limit, I always stand by. Those weren't bad albums at all.
Those weren't bad albums. It was
Those
just
were not
different.
bad albums. Snoop was spitting on those albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it panned out for him, with Master P coming in and helping him and lacing him with some game and giving him that and then allowing him to go and do his thing again. So it worked out well for Snoop. For Dre, I mean, we're not going to sit here and say, like, when he left Death Row, everything just went to automatic success afterwards. It didn't. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like, until him, it was kind of rough for Aftermath starting up.
It was. No, I mean, the truth is, as much as Snoop needs Dre needs Snoop probably more than that, because like you said, those Snoop projects on No Limit, yeah, they weren't Doggy Style or whatever, but Snoop was able to sustain his career, had some hits, stayed relevant, stayed around. And Dr. Dre wasn't able to do that at the same level as Snoop. And when it came time for Dr. Dre to really make his massive comeback, 2001, which I think is probably one of the best comeback albums ever, if you will. Yeah. He needed Snoop to do it. Like, the next episode was supposed to be the first single. Why? Because Snoop's on it. And that wasn't the first single because they, felt like they needed a lead single with Dre's name and all that in it. Call up Jigga Man. He writes Still DRE. Who they have to put on that shit? Snoop. Snoop didn't write anything on there from what I understand, but he had to be on there because Dre needed Snoop. It is what it
Well,
is.
Snoop only did the hook, so yeah,
Yeah. But he still
But yeah,
needed
he's
him
still on the record. You're
there.
right.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Dre, and I think Dre is a producer first, but I've heard the California Love where it's just two Dre verses. Like, I don't feel like Dre can really hold down a hit record by himself. And even if we go with Let Me Ride, which I feel like is the closest for him to do
I
that,
like
Snoop's on there too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need Snoop on the record if you're Dre. You need him.
Yeah, and it's just like not only that, like we like because it's so swept under the rug. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
Dre leaves Death Row, he gets Aftermath, Eminem Success 2001. Like there's a
Right.
little period of haziness because you have the Firm in the that not going so well. Then you have the Aftermath album that kind of damn near was shelved because remember he had a video. Remember the Been There Done That track?
I was gonna say, you remember Been There, Done
Yeah,
That. That's
Been There
been
Done That. They
done
had a
that.
music video to that and
Yeah,
everything. So it
yeah.
was like
That's another solo Dr. Dre song that really didn't, Uh, same thing with Keep Your Heads Ringing, which I know was similar. It
that was on
was
the Friday
before
soundtrack.
we got to that point. I
Yeah,
think that's
I
probably
like that
Dr.
record.
Dre's biggest song by
Yeah,
himself. But yeah, it was a struggle without having Snoop on those records.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of what ifs with that. It's a really what
Yeah.
if.
But I would like to know, and no one's really asked Snoop in recent times, like, what was that like for him when he got the news that Dr. Dre was leaving Death Row? Because I don't feel like, I could be wrong, I don't feel like Dr. Dre consulted with him about that decision beforehand. At least I've never heard that. And Snoop, I mean, that's the biggest blow to him. I mean, you've been working with Dr. Dre your whole short young career at this point, and now you don't have a producer really. I mean, you got Daz, you got your cousin, y'all make music together, but Snoop has once said, Daz might have made the beats on Doggy Style, but Dr. Dre actually produced the album, and that says a lot.
Yeah, man. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of what ifs, but yeah, that like we talk about a few here, but it's like like I said, that Aaliyah one is what stood out to me because I the reason
Yeah.
why it did and what made me bring it up because I'm looking at the stuff with Dame. I think Dame is like he lost a new lawsuit and he owes somebody else now for defamation. And I just be like, damn, man, like Dame can't just win, bro. Like it's just been downhill for Dame. It's like he can't win. And I was like, I just wonder, like, because before Aaliyah passed, they were engaged. So I'm just wondering, like,
I
if
hate to see
yeah,
them go through this stuff, man. And
yeah,
I
exactly.
it's for me, even I mean, I don't know all the details of what's going on with, Russell Simmons and why he's, over in Bali and all that. But when you think of somebody who built Def Jam Records, Def Comedy Jam, Fat Farm, all of these things that, many of us have created an industry behind, and they're just sitting in a treehouse somewhere in some foreign land. It's wild, man. And all the things that Dame brought to the game and people put on and made a better life for, I hate to see him going through this, man. I really do.
Yeah, man. So
It's
yeah, I really
it's
wonder how that would
unfortunate.
have panned out. What were you saying, Mike?
I
I'm
think
sorry.
that it would have definitely helped out. I think having somebody like, Aaliyah in her flourishing career, I think that it definitely would have, put him in a different headspace and, in a motivational and space and a better trajectory. But again, you got to handle it right too, man. You can't go out there and do a Jermaine Dupri Janet thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
hopefully that wouldn't have happened. But no, people
But I just
still
really
don't
wonder how it would
understand.
have made him a better person.
Yeah, hopefully, you know what I'm saying. Um,
Yeah.
People still don't understand how Jermaine Dupri fumbled that one, or the biggest fumble of all
You want to
time.
know? Go listen to Confessions because that definitely was about Jermaine Dupri. You know what I'm saying?
Very
Which
sad
I feel
story.
like Jermaine Dupri. I know they like to put him in the likes of just like Chris Cross and Bow Wow and the
Mhm.
Brat, but Jermaine Dupri, like to know that he did Confessions and he wrote some of that stuff, and it was based on the stuff. Is genius of his own, and I feel like Jermaine Dupri. I know they talk about. I know Nelly on the Drink Champs recently was talking about if a verse would have happened between Jermaine Dupri and Diddy. He said Diddy would have been in trouble, and I actually agree with him
The
because Jermaine
problem with
Dupri. I'm sorry.
the problem with that versus is we don't really know what Diddy produced, you know,
Exactly.
and it's like, are we? That just wouldn't have been a fair fight overall. And I think that, like you said, from a I actually made this beat type standpoint, yeah, Jermaine Dupri wins all day. But I mean, Puff was sitting there talking about he got Mary's catalog and Biggie's catalog. I'm like, what Mary J. Blige song did you actually make? Because
Catalog, you know, say catalog, you know, do her own catalog, a portion of
you
a
did.
time in her career, you know. Because, like,
Look,
if you want to say that, then
J.
we can say
Blige's
Jermaine
album.
Dupri has Hussle. We can say he has Mariah Carey. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's Skate. You
And
know,
his
Jermaine
name
Dupri has that in his bag. Jagged
Yeah.
Edge. You know,
Jermaine said he produced for Jagged Edge, but Jagged Edge was writing their own stuff. But yeah, I mean, Jermaine has stuff that, you know, he's produced on his own. I can't really point to anything that Puff produced on his own. I mean, Puff was genius at what he was able to do and getting the right people in the room and getting the right folks together. But it's like, what is this versus for? Is this like executive production? Because at that point, I feel like Diddy needs to go against L.A. Reid or something. You know what I'm saying? But are we talking about people who actually put their, you know what I'm saying, put their actual hands to the equipment? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I mean, but
Stevie J got an interview going right now, and it's like Stevie J is behind a lot of those hits, you know. So it's like,
he is.
What's up,
I mean,
man?
on
What
what's
we
the
doing?
411? On what's the 411? I mean, you got everybody from Devontae on there, Corey Rooney on there, but the album that I'm thinking about is My Life, where that is mostly Chucky Thompson. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to Chucky Thompson. And yeah, I mean, Chucky Thompson made those records. We're not gonna just sit here and act like he didn't. Like,
Yeah,
I think Versus gets in a very murky place if people are able to play records that they didn't even make.
That's what I'm saying.
Sorry.
Jermaine got those joints. Jermaine, you know, he you know, people could clown and say, "Oh, Bow Wow, Crisscross," but yeah, they had big records too. You know, it's
stuff, man. He did that. You know, I will say this.
Yes,
I know a lot of people.
all them.
Jermaine's an interesting person because I feel like he's gotten hated on a lot in the industry, and even with that whole Diddy and Jermaine versus thing, Diddy was trying to play him on IG Live like Jermaine wasn't in his league, and I think that's just wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do people treat Jermaine Dupri like that? Like his catalog ain't what it is, and like
Because
you know, what I'm saying he
associate him. They try to make. You know what happened when Jermaine went through that little period when he was beefing through Dr. Dre and Eminem dissed him. They did a diss track to JD. Yeah, they limit, and then Timbaland came on the end of it and said what he said at the end. I think that now put that that stain on Jermaine as, oh, he's just a person I work with kid acts. And that's trash because we know that he had hands in R&B, he had hands in his own stuff, and he produced for others that was of classics. And I feel like that's just it sucks that that's what you try to mountain JD to, because like I said, this man gave us Confessions. He gave Mariah her last real great album. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like it's Jagged Edge, Skate, The Brat. You know, The Brat was what, the first female artist to go platinum, rapper to go platinum. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at the end of the day, Jermaine has stuff under his belt that I feel he don't get credit for real, you know, and I think that's where it started to become around where people start looking at Jermaine the way that they do. It's like when that happened, when he beefed with Dr. Eminem and all of them.
I'm gonna be honest. That whole Dr. Dre thing and Timbaland, When Jermaine Dupri said, "You put me in a room and put all these other people in a room, I'll come out with a hit first." I don't think that's something to beef with somebody over. I think that that's a challenge, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's the only thing he said. Now, I will give, maybe there's some undertones when it comes to maybe Dr. Dre's frustration with Jermaine at the time, because many people felt like Brat's Funkdafied was Jermaine biting off a G-Funk. I get that. You know what I'm saying? Because when I go back and look at Funkdafied and the whole tone of what they were doing, they were trying to make the Brat like a, you know what I'm saying, a female Snoop. Cool. Same thing with Criss Cross or whatever when it comes to Jump Jump and just using the Jackson 5 sample, same way that, you know, Tretch did or Naughty by Nature did with OPP. Shout out to KG who produced that beat. Yes, they felt like Criss Cross was biting off of Naughty by Nature. We're going to make a kid version of Naughty by Nature. Even if he did all those things, who else was able to make these acts successful? Who else was able to make a child act like a Criss Cross global superstars and what he was able to do later on with Bow Wow and a whole different generation? You got to give credit where credit's due. Escape. He
You
was
said
able
he
to make
found Crisscross in the mall?
Yeah, Greenbrier. That's what
Yeah,
they said.
man. It's like,
You and he saw that they were popular kids. And again, Criss Cross didn't really have no blueprint for real. Now, if you go out there and say, "Yo, I want to make a kid version of Naughty by Nature," and actually do it, I mean, you can't get too mad. You know what I'm saying? Like he actually did it. Now, I do think that Naughty by Nature needs to get a little bit more props when it comes to, you know, Criss Cross. And I think that for people like Dre and maybe even Timbaland at the time, they may have looked at Jermaine as a biter. I could see that because biting was frowned upon, but especially in hip hop at the time. But you know, he challenged you to, you know, who can make a hit first. I mean, you know, all you got to do is just prove him wrong, to be honest. But maybe that whole, you know, my level type of thing comes from because maybe some of the veteran producers look at Jermaine as somebody who copied Styles. Maybe that's where that comes from. I'm not
man, but he was
sure.
also
They
innovative in
would
some
have
ways
to.
too.
What's that?
Yeah, you know, yeah, it's like Jermaine was also innovative in some ways too, bringing new stuff to the game. You know, there was a
I mean,
time when
again, man,
Atlanta was
nobody can
popping,
tell
some
you.
people went down there and they hollered at Jermaine.
Yeah,
You know,
Jermaine, you know, again, he took a lot of bullets for the city in a time where Atlanta really wasn't on like that. He was in an interesting place because he was up there living in New York, and I'm just speaking again. I was a kid in the '90s, so I can't really
Mhm.
speak like I was out here in these streets and all that in the studio. But the tone was, it felt like Jermaine was too southern for New York and too New York for Atlanta for some people, especially when Outkast and Goody Mob and these guys were doing what they were doing. I mean, even when, you know, you hear T.I. on the song In the A talking about some what's all this yo 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 yo, that's an Atlanta song. I mean, but I understand what Jermaine was doing. Jermaine was trying to get Atlanta heard in places that weren't going to play the local sounds and the local twangs and all of that stuff. And he took those bullets, you know what I'm saying? And he made those relationships where so that he could go out there and make a so deaf bass all-star for the city, or he
yeah,
didn't make it, but put that out, you know what I'm saying? And we got a record like My Boo from the Ghost Town DJs and stuff
mhm.
like that. So I mean, he was definitely necessary. Him and Ludacris had a similar approach in that way, where it was like, you know what, we're going to do for the city, but we're also going to go outside the city and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Kind of, you know, so I don't want to say water Atlanta down, but just, you know, assimilate with other, you know, markets, but still bring Atlanta to these markets. But
I
when
mean,
you
hell,
come
you
back,
did Money Anything with Jay-Z. You know,
yeah, and you know, I know it seems like revisionist history or whatever for people who weren't there. He was much bigger than Jay-Z at the time they made that.
And Life
It
in
is what it
1472 was fire.
is. Yeah, it was. I
That album
bought
was
that.
fire,
Yeah.
you know?
Jermaine and Manny Fresh need more props.
Yeah,
Is this a
facts.
Southern thing or something? I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. Because
We talk.
honestly, to me,
What
oh,
are you
go ahead.
saying?
I was gonna say, honestly, to me, man, and I've always got flack for this, but I just never understood all the hoopla with Swiss Beats as a producer. I would put Jermaine Dupri over Swiss Beats
Yeah, I can see that.
because he's produced full albums and he's got hit records as well. Like even if we talk about Jermaine Dupri producing Young, Rich, and Dangerous for Criss Cross, I think that's a better produced album than any fully produced Swiss Beats album. And I think if we're going hit for hit, Swiss might have more rap hits than Jermaine, but it ain't that far off. And if we start counting the R&B stuff, no.
Yeah, because that R and
So
B
yeah,
stuff, you start getting the murky waters, man. You
because
really start
I will put
waters.
yeah, I will I'm kind of hesitant here, but yeah, I would definitely put Jermaine Dupri over Swiss Beats. I think Money in the Thing is better than Money Cash Hoes too, if we're being honest.
Nah, I ain't gonna go with you on that.
You're not
I
gonna
like.
go there.
Nah, I ain't gonna say that. You wild for that one. Money Cash Hoes was that.
As far as
Yeah,
the beat goes,
yeah,
though,
that beat was crazy. As soon as
mm,
the first beginning sound of that beat, like, yeah, Money Catch Hoes
what
was
did you
crazy.
think about? What did you think about that? The Jay-Z song that was on the Rough Riders and not Rough Riders and Rough Riders compilation. That Jigga, what's my
Oh,
motherfucking
I love
name?
that joint.
I did too, but I didn't
AC.
love the beat. I love
Yeah.
what Jay did on it though. When I think
Oh, his
about
flow
these
in there was crazy. Yeah, like
when
when
I
you
think
hear his
about these
flow,
Swiss songs, it's not about the beat. It's more so about what Jay did on them. I'm talking about Jay and
yeah,
Swiss.
his flow versus the contrast of DMX's flow, they perfect. They killed it. They was
Yeah,
perfect on that.
yeah. Well, dang, we what 3 hours in, man. Did we cover everything?
Oh, we did a what if, and this is one a big one. We could leave on this one.
Okay,
We did a
okay.
what if, and this guy, he was born a day before me, but he's of course he's older than me, but his birthday is a day before mine.
Hmm.
August 15th, and we say what would the West Coast have looked like if he would have still been alive? And today marks the day of when he was murdered. And
Yes.
I would say Nipsey, man. Let's revisit just quickly what would
No,
it have
no, no.
been for
Let's do it.
Nipsey. Yeah, what would it have been for Nipsey if the success of Victory Lap and what would it look like his trajectory in hip hop and the respect that we pay for him now and how we look at his music, through everything. But today is the day that marks the day where he was murdered, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
remember I remember getting that news and having to report that news, and it was just so sad, man. Like it was first that there was a shooting at the Marathon store, and then it was and it was people in the comments on our Facebook page, like I know his manager, they saying it's Nipsey and this and that, and it's like damn, because he was just out here doing so much. He was somebody that was in the community, that was about the music, but he was about uplifting people. And even on his dying day, he was there, in the community with people from the community, and it was a whole lot surrounding that. It's a very sad situation. It was a lot more unique than some of the other untimely deaths and murders that we've seen in hip hop, because this is somebody who was doing something positive even in those final moments, and I hate to see that the store went down the road that it went, but I love to see that they just opened up Marathon Burger. And
mhm.
to answer your question, I think that, as far as being a leader in hip hop and in business and in the community, I think that a lot of artists would have started, following suit with what Nipsey was doing and kind of following his lead. I was already seeing it happen anyway. And he made doing something for your community, cool. And it wasn't. It's weird. It didn't come across as like he's flexing or flossing or what I'm saying, playing it up for the camera. It was just this is what I'm here to do. And I think that the way that he spoke to it in interviews and how transparent he was in interviews and stuff, I think that that is what made people feel like, yo, this is genuine. This is a genuine dude.
Yeah, and I remember when it first hit, I remember my mom called me. And she was like, "You seen that rapper Nispey got killed?" And I was like, "This is a hoax, man. Let me go." And I immediately got on my phone. I'm checking, and it fucked me up because the first thing that I seen before the news was they already had the video of him being killed floating around on the internet. And that's when I say, man, the internet, man, you guys gotta like the internet, man, is like there's no discretion on anything, man. I ain't gonna lie. Throughout the years, I've seen so many people murdered on the internet. Just by just scrolling, you'll see somebody, some wild stuff, and then to see that happen to Nipsey, and it was like, damn, bro, like, because I remember when he dropped Crenshaw, I still have the videos on my IG. I went to the club to go see him do the walkthrough here from when he was doing the Crenshaw stuff, and Jacksonville, a lot of people, they're like, who's this guy? They looking at Nipsey, whatever. This is like, and then to see how the everybody now clouts this man passed, and now everybody act like they was on Nipsey. I was like, I remember being in the club, and I'm hype about this because he got Crenshaw, and that was a joint for me. And when he passed, now everybody's on Nip thing, and it's like, okay, it's cool, you appreciate him, but I remember really being out there and seeing him. I was like right there by the stage when he, when he did that walkthrough and when he performed a couple of his joints, and people just standing around like, yeah, man, Nip was that guy, bro. Like, and he was spitting. That Victory Lap album, that was one of the last albums I said I could really listen to from beginning to end.
Yeah, he put it all in that one, man. Mad Max with the Super Chat says, Mike, you wildin'. Jermaine ain't Swiss. You chat. I'll challenge Swiss with Jermaine's catalog for sure. Now, the rap shit, I think Swiss could win that. He probably would win that. But if we're talking about full catalog, nah. But yeah, thanks for bringing that back because, we got on a few tangents here and we want to definitely touch on that. It was a very, very, very sad day. And he's definitely one of those that this generation misses, I feel like. I think that you have people like Nipsey who, like you said, were about putting together full bodies of work, but also about, making this music make sense and making it a gateway to do better things for you, your community, your family. Yo, what up, Leroy? Where Leroy come from?
I just pop up, man. That's how I be.
Just we're gonna be on for another 2 hours now.
I can make it quick. I got to speak on something because
go for it, man.
Yeah,
I got to. Okay, shout out to everybody. What ifs, right? Real quick. I think a what if is because Jay was cool with AZ and Foxy. I think he should have been in the firm, and I think a conversation was had between him and Nas about that when it happened. So that's just my own opinion.
That is Brooklyn.
Because that would have aligned. That would have aligned Rockefeller, Bad Boy, Def Jam, and Aftermath all under the same umbrella. That's a takeover. That's a total takeover.
No pun intended.
So this is why integrity matters, right? I'm not gonna get on Kanye too much because y'all know I don't like Kanye West. So it makes no sense for me to say what y'all already know, right? But I'm looking for someone to make sense of why he's speaking with logic. But let me tell you why integrity matters, to use Nipsey Hussle as an example. If you have $1 billion, Mike, how much business can you do in the music industry? A lot, right? Would it be wise for you to attack the music industry and you're holding $1 billion that could help you in it? That probably wouldn't be that wise, because when we talk about the industry pushing plants or pushing negative music, who's writing the music? Are they writing it or are we writing it? Who's signing the deals? We're signing the deals. Then we get pissed off. So this is why certain integrity matters. When it, are you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, hold on. I mean, it depends on if Ye. Well, let's just say Ye wanted to push the positivity out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's just say that Ye wanted to push positivity out there. He has the resources to actually start his own label and all of those things. Do you think artists would actually sign to Ye at this point? And I don't think so at this point. But again, that's the only point I was gonna make because, like you said, if you got $1 billion and you want to put it into the music industry to change the industry, I do feel like that, as we spoke about earlier, there are a host of artists that, a wealthy person like a Kanye West could put their support behind financially and through his works.
Right, and he wants to fight.
Why not?
Yeah, he wants to fight all these battles. You want to fight this group. You want to fight Jay-Z. You want to fight everybody who used to work with you. Well, what is all this fighting going to accomplish when you could have just been making your music, making your moves? I don't understand. But when it comes to Nipsey, right? Everybody pull up this chart of Nipsey. Go online and pull up Nipsey's investments, right? This is why integrity matters, right? If you guys buy a McDonald's today, go down the street and put some money down on a McDonald's. What is that going to do for your family in the next generation? It's probably going to be a pretty good investment for your family, right? So what Nipsey did, in a small amount of time, he co-founded a STEM academy, so science, technology, engineering, and math, that was going to operate in multiple cities. He also established a Destination Crenshaw, which is a mile and some change. It was an art space honoring LA's Black heritage. Now, that's another thing. You could lose money or make money there. Proud to Pay, the business model. He made $1.5 million with that business model as an independent artist. Let's internalize that for a second. Okay. He reopened World on Wheels. If you're from LA, all my LA people, how big is that? He reopened World on Wheels, right? He partnered with the Fat Burger. They were wearing his clothing, Crenshaw clothes. You know what I mean? In the Fat Burger. Now he got his own burger joint. He had a barber shop. He had the Marathon clothing, but that partnered with Puma also, and he had smart technology embedded in the clothes, like investment, like blockchain, a music app, and you could get new music from there. You could get tickets to shows, all kinds of stuff. He launched our Opportunity Coalition, which was gonna revamp properties, build up communities, homes, buy properties, and etc. And he also, invested in a luxury resort. So what I'm saying right there, and that's all on this chart. Again, I'm gonna hold it up in case y'all want to. And this is off
what
rap
website
info.
do they need to go to? What website do they need to go to see that?
It's okay.
Before we
Just type in Nipsey Hussle investments. That's all.
Okay.
Just type in
All
it.
right.
Now this is in a short period of time. How much money are we looking at here in 10 years? Like, really, let's really think about that. So I'll let the audience think about that. And this is why integrity matters, man. We can't have our leaders, whether you want to call them leaders or not, because people look at Kendrick a certain way. And I think Kendrick should go at Kanye. You went at Drake, and now Kanye is calling you out, Kendrick. So
Don't fall for the bait. I disagree with you on that.
Kanye is calling you out with your kids. What are we doing as men? So, but I just want to bring up a point about Nipsey because that's a very missed point. And it's like the power in what you could do as a rapper is incredible. Like, if you're in your right mind.
I think that's a great point to make. I think that's a great way to go out, and appreciate you dropping in to show that chart and really give some particulars about some of the things that Nipsey was invested in. Man, rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Appreciate you, Leroy Green, for jumping in. I appreciate you guys for listening, man. Savannah, this was a great show, man. We had a good time once again.
Appreciate y'all for checking in, man.
Yeah, you want to leave the people with anything before we get up out of here?
yeah, man, just again, if you guys are in the Texas area, San Antonio area this weekend, the HBCU basketball all-star game for men and women is going to be there. We posted the link with the how you can get tickets in the chat. Check out the interview. I did that. That's on the According to Hip Hop channel with Travis Williams. And just keep on supporting the shows, man. I appreciate y'all in the comments. Even with y'all side conversations, it keeps everything going, man. I appreciate y'all. Even the feedback, even if it's if it's something I still don't like, whatever, keep it coming, bro. I don't care. We like all feedback. I don't care. But most importantly, appreciate the feedback. Appreciate you guys tuning in to every show, tuning us every Monday, and we're gonna keep it coming. Appreciate it.
Do it, man. Love you guys, man. Y'all have a great week, man. All right.